I didn't have the context to come out of this movie going, oh, that was great, or oh man, that was awful. I just felt like, oh, that was a movie somebody made.
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
Everybody, welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Hello.
And from Music Video Sins, Barrett Scher.
Hi there.
And we have another guest today.
Yay!
Yay! Aaron Dicer, who is also on YouTube.
I am. Yeah, you can search Your Movie Friend on YouTube. You'll find my stuff.
Yeah, you're a movie friend. You also have a podcast called Sift Pop.
Yeah, Sift Pop Podcast. You can subscribe at whatever podcast player you choose to use. On YouTube, between Cinemasins and myself, we have like millions of subscribers.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
For those of you at home, Aaron is a college buddy of mine. We went to school together and enjoyed The Simpsons and movies and bowling.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to have him on because in addition to the YouTube channel and the podcast, Aaron is a professional movie reviewer. Mm-hmm. And in Springfield?
Yeah, Springfield, Missouri. Yep.
And so he reviews movies on the television news like a real professional and stuff.
Springfield, it's a hell of a town.
And so we're going to get into, after we talk 2009, we're going to talk a little bit about reviewing movies from both our perspective and his, and some of his experiences, because he gets screeners and gets to go to the Critics Awards and like rub elbows with Tom Hanks and all that.
That is exactly how it is. You stick your elbows out, walk by people, and just rub each other's elbows. And then you can
just tell people that I rubbed elbows with Tom Hanks.
Tom
Hanks lying.
No, I'm not lying. I didn't say anything to him. I just bumped him.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so...
But today we're going to continue our best of the years we've been alive, and it's going to be 2009.
Sound good?
Yes, sir! He made me this collar so that I may talk. Squirrel!
I don't want to say anything that's anti-feminist. I really appreciate everything that your generation did for me. It was our pleasure.
Well done.
Are you cussing with me?
No, you cussing with me?
Don't cuss and point.
You're gonna cuss with somebody. You're not gonna cuss with me, you little cuss.
Me.
She's gonna ruin my whole day.
Time to nut up or shut up.
Tigers love pepper. They hate cinnamon.
And all the whores and politicians will look up and shout, "Save us." And I'll whisper, "No."
But you guys still think I'm gonna be okay at the company, right? I mean, you guys are gonna, take down the bad guys, but I'll be okay, right?
Mm-hmm. This is a tough year.
It is a tough year.
Because there's no There Will Be Blood in this year. There's no heavy hitting. There's, like I said when I got here, there's 6 or 7 really good movies I like that I'm trying to decide what to vote, but nothing that just goes, I'm the best.
Yeah, I had 9. I had 9 that I was really considering.
Yeah, and
this
so
year.
This should be an interesting
discussion. This was also the first year that the Academy seriously considered 10 movies.
Yeah.
Which
that's right.
Is insane. You look at the list and it's like, no. No.
Give us some of the
half of them, Avatar, no.
Oh my God.
The Blind Side, no.
Ooh.
District 9, no. Precious, no. And then you have some maybe sort of.
Are you telling me Avatar was nominated for Best Picture?
Fuck
absolutely it was. Here's the one on there that wouldn't have been on there that I'm glad it expanded for, and that's Up.
Yeah.
I don't think Up would have been nominated for a Best Picture unless they expand to, a few more movies, and so I was really glad to see.
But did they keep the animated category as well, and was Up in that one?
Yep.
Yeah.
And it won, right?
I'm sure it did. Yeah, I don't remember for a fact.
I'm pretty sure it did, and usually when it's nominated for Best Picture, it's pretty much just foregone conclusion it's going to win.
Well, let's talk about Up then, should we?
Yeah, sure.
Up is infamously has what I think is Pixar's best moment ever, with the montage in the beginning, which is heartbreaking. But then this movie takes a hard left turn into zany country, where we have talking dogs and an evil Zeppelin driver, and it is one of the most bonkers Pixar movies ever, right?
It's really interesting because people remember it for that first, 10 to 15 minutes or whatever. It's kind of like this short film that's better than any short film you've ever seen, and then it becomes kind of your typical Pixar movie with, the heart in there amongst the zaniness and the characters.
Yeah, maybe the best example of show don't tell in that montage, right?
Yeah.
Because you feel all the feelings, and there's no narrator telling you what to think, and there's no there's nothing in your face about that. It's just watch.
Does Up have sort of the same reputation that Wall-E does?
I think it does.
Is Up Pete Docter? Did Pete Docter do Up? Which
I
one
think that was Pete Docter.
I think he did.
He's so good, man.
I think the Up opening montage is definitely more cited than the Wall-E opening dialogue-free stuff.
For sure.
Because it's more like Wall-E just explores and it definitely shows and not tells, but Up hits you in the gut.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, just to verify, Pete Docter did, and along with Bob Peterson, one always does animation, one does the other stuff.
Right.
But yeah, Up to me has that sort of reputation, right? Like we consider it one of their best, their very best, but also it kind of like starts sliding down after that huge, like amazing opening and everything, and you kind of. Oh yeah, this is good, but you really set the bar high at the beginning, and now we're having to like catch up.
Although I will say the old man kid relationship in that all the way through is perfect.
Yeah.
Like the way they use them together to create the themes and the meaning and the message of that movie.
It reminds me, I shouldn't say this, but it reminds me of Bad Santa in that way. You know what I mean? Because
please explain.
Ladies and gentlemen, the first Bad Santa Up comparison.
Because there's a crusty older guy who really doesn't want to deal with this kid, but by the end, he's really endeared himself to the old man. And that's really all it has in common with Bad Santa, except for the anal sex.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Exactly.
We've gone like 6 minutes. I've already busted out an anal sex.
Yes. I do see what you mean. Other than what you just said there at the end. But yeah, this is fantastic, and I think this sort of completes their cycle that they've been going through since 2004 here.
Yeah.
Where they look like they were just on a tremendous roll that would never ever stop. But then after this, yes, Toy Story 3 is great, but it's also unnecessary.
Yeah.
And a whole bunch of sequels start coming out from Pixar, and their original stuff starts suffering too.
You know, Toy Story, the original, was on the other day. My wife was watching it, and the first comment I made was, look how far they've come animation-wise. Because you watch that first Toy Story now, and there's so many rough edges, but they will never match the charm of that first movie. I still say the third one is better than the second one. The second one's better than the first one. First one, never going to match that charm. Never.
Yeah.
It was magic.
Yeah.
And I also love the score in Up, which I think is Michael Giacchino, right?
Yeah.
And I sing it around the house all the time. Doodle-doo-doo, doodle-doo-doo. Anyway, I love Up. That's dear to my heart. And
it's great.
One more thing about Up, I would say it's the prototypical Pixar putting more attention to voices about character than names, which is one of the things I love about them as compared to a lot of other animated films. They'll think of superstars they can get, and Pixar doesn't care. They just want the character to work. So having Ed Asner, of all people, do this character.
It's not somebody you can sell the movie by saying this guy's voice is
it's not somebody you're going to put on a poster. It's somebody who's going to make the movie better.
Yeah, it's kind of like Patton Oswalt and Ratatouille.
Yeah, exactly.
There's an example of that in all their movies. Now, granted, they had Ellen DeGeneres in Finding Nemo, but Albert Brooks?
Yeah.
I mean, and then you look at something like with Trolls, where they cast Justin Timberlake and Anakin and all the biggest stars possible to try and get you to come watch for their voices. You're right. Pixar does care more about character when they cast.
It's to the movie's deficit when you do that, because all I'm picturing when I'm watching Trolls is Timberlake and Kendrick having a conversation in the studio instead of thinking about these characters.
Yep.
And what they're
that's
going
part of the
through,
marketing too, is they'll show them in the booth and all that stuff rather than, and it was the same. There's other ones like they'll show Mike Myers in the studio doing something for a Shrek movie, Antonio Banderas, Cameron Diaz. But Pixar doesn't do that.
No, I mean you can see that stuff on like the DVD extras and whatnot, but that's not how they market the film. Yeah, they care about story.
Let's talk about Avatar because we're going to have to.
God dang it!
I hate it. Yeah, I hate it too. I watched it twice, in fact, before it came out. I watched the 2D version first, but then everybody was like, the reviews I saw, well, you got to see this in 3D. So I watched it in 3D. Still bad.
What? 3D doesn't save awful story?
Yeah, you would think, right? But it didn't, and I was shocked. But no, I still don't understand this phenomenon. I remember when Titanic came out, and I remember thinking, I can understand the phenomenon here. You have 14 and 15-year-old girls who keep coming to watch the movie over and over. It came out at the perfect time as Avatar. Avatar came out at the exact same time as Titanic and Star Wars later on did. But this one, I don't recall there being a lot of like just, you know, a specific group of fan people that came to watch this.
Yeah.
It just everybody went to go see it.
It had the Cameron hype machine, though. Like, Cameron has this thing. I don't get it. Like, I don't understand how it happens, but somehow through sheer force of personality, his movies just make billions of dollars.
Well,
like, it's
up until now. But now he's going to strike when the iron's gone cold with these 3 or 4 planned Avatar sequels that won't even start for another year or two. I don't think anybody's going to give crap.
I said the same thing about the first one, though, too. And, you know, it doubled every movie before. You know what I mean? I mean, it made was it our first $1 billion worldwide movie?
I don't think it was the first. It may be the first to hit $2 billion, maybe.
But this was huge with international audiences. We can't ignore that. That's part of the reason this was such a big movie.
Well, yeah. In fact, it made 73% of its money worldwide in other markets other than ours, and it made a lot here.
Yeah,
it made did. You know, $760 million. It made $2 billion on its own on other countries, and yeah, I mean, but yeah, this movie I think also had a long. I think you referenced that it had a long time in coming. It was something he was doing for years.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was just this idea that Cameron had something special that was coming. Now, see, if that doesn't hit and everybody goes once and it's like, oh, that wasn't anything, then I get it. It makes, maybe $400 million. Yeah. But people are going 2, 3, 4 times to see this thing. So there's something there.
I think it was Papa Dragon.
Yeah, it's Papa Dragon.
This is Papa Dragon.
But there's also the thought that some people, like, there were people who were getting depressed because they couldn't go to Pandora.
This is what I want to talk about, because I am apparently the only one in this room that kind of likes the movie.
Okay.
So this is the part I would talk about. When I walked out of that movie the first time, and I did see it in 3D the first time, I looked around at the world around me. I'm not kidding. And I was like, I want to go back. Like, there's something about being, like, world creation Cameron nails. Like, he understands how to build a world. Now, telling a new and fresh story, maybe not so much.
Yeah.
But building a world that you want to exist in, that's why I'm so excited about the Avatar world that's coming at Disney next year.
Yeah.
Next summer, they're opening Avatar worlds. That's exciting to me because you can kind of go live in it or experience it a little bit or whatever.
So you're basically you're talking about all the little things, like they're able to connect to
the little
other
animals, how the world works, the beauty of the kind of the fluorescence and that kind of stuff. With him talking about the sequel being underwater, immediately I was like, well, that's perfect for him because he gets to build a whole nother world in this area, the floating mountains, whatever it was. I really think
the sequel's going to be underwater.
I had heard that at one point that part of it was going to be about kind of the underwater.
It's going to feature Gungans.
I'm going to do going to do an outtake with the Super Mario underwater level.
Yep. Nice.
There you go.
I'm calling it right now.
This movie kicked so much ass at the box office that 3 months later, Alice in Wonderland came out and was a huge beneficiary of it.
Yeah.
Because I think they even converted that to 3D, and everybody was like, well, Avatar is good in 3D, so everything's good in 3D now.
Avatar is that the biggest hit for 3D ever? I mean, and I know it is up to the point when it came out, but has anything come out since that was a hit because of its 3D-ness?
Only thing I can think of that and I would only say that it's because I actually wanted to go see it because of the 3D was Gravity.
Yeah.
But
I'd say Doctor Strange is getting some of that love.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot about Strange's 3D.
Did you see it in 3D?
I did see it in 3D.
Was it?
Well, I saw it first in regular 2D, and then I saw it in IMAX Laser 3D.
Oh, wow.
Which, if you've never seen a laser show, is mind-blowing.
I've seen a laser show.
I think there's only 4 IMAX laser theaters in the country right now, and one of them happens to be about 45 minutes south of me.
Oh, wow.
So, in Branson, Missouri, of all places.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I went and saw it in laser 3D, and it was spectacular. Now, that may just be the laser talking, because the dynamic contrast, if you don't look up how laser works, because it's 2 projectors, and it allows the blacks to be true black. There's no light bleed on the screen at all. So because it's laser, not actual lumens, so to speak. So all the colors are just crisp, and the lines between black and light. So you could have like a bright light next to a dark black, and the contrast is still perfect.
Wow.
So it's yeah, it's pretty incredible.
It also helps if you do a lot of drugs too, right?
I've heard that.
Okay.
I've heard that. Yes.
You can get the 3D laser effect with just shrooms.
The right combination.
Yeah, I mean, you can probably watch it projected on a wall, and if you eat the right shrooms, you're going to have that experience. Do we need to talk more about Avatar?
No, we
Can
don't.
We move
No.
on?
Yep.
I hate that piece of crap.
No, because I'll just end up hurting my credibility.
No. I like that you disagree with us openly on like the second movie we talk about.
Right? No. Here's the other part of it though too. I do think its success also increases the amount of vitriol for it. When something is that successful and you don't like it, you're more apt to hate it than just to be, I don't like that. So I think Titanic suffers from a lot of that too because it was so successful. People who don't like it are going to really, it's the.
Yeah, if The English Patient had not been called the most romantic movie ever and gotten nominated for all these awards, I would not hate it so much.
Exactly.
I would just forgotten it.
Yep. All right, well, let's talk about a good movie then. Inglourious Bastards.
Oh,
There you
my
go.
God. The first 10 minutes of this movie, it's the best thing Tarantino has ever done.
I think so.
The scene where Hans Landa goes to this guy's house and just slowly goes from nice to menacing. One of the most tense scenes in film history, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be. It doesn't get there until you realize when they do that shot going down underneath the floor where he's talking about, rats and extermination, things like that, where you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
This is crazy. And it's after he takes out that comically large pipe and starts smoking everything. But Hans Landa, the Christoph Waltz's performance is not only great just acting-wise, but he speaks, 4 languages in this film?
Yeah.
All perfectly, or I assume perfectly. I don't speak German and French very fluently, but
sounded
it's
fluent
gorgeous.
to me.
It's gorgeous.
Everything that he says in this movie has the hint of danger, and you don't know when it's coming.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's why it's so amazing to watch him during this entire thing, including the scene where he's like asking if, she wants the cream in her coffee and everything, which is a very Jewish, no and everything. And all these type of things that he does, you're just like, man, I don't know when the explosion's going to happen, but he,
Yeah, because he's always staring at these people like he's peering into their soul.
Yeah.
I guess that's how his character works.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Equally good scene later on in the bar with Michael Fassbender.
Absolutely.
And, he gives himself away in the most hilarious, stupid, trivial manner. But leading up to that, everything is so tense because we know what's going on, and we know somebody's probably going to catch on to this at some point, but when and how. I think this is one of my favorite Tarantino movies because of those 2 scenes. Now, it goes full Tarantino at the end and way excessive with the shooting of Hitler and the scalping and the whatnot. I actually could take or leave a lot of that.
Yep.
But those 2 scenes are so fantastic that I keep going back to this movie over and over again.
Yeah, and it's revisionist history here. I mean, we're talking about like, yes, this did not happen. This is a fantasy scenario back in World War II.
Do you think there are people who think that it happened that way? Do you think there are people that watch this movie and are like, oh,
yes,
I never realized that's what happened?
Oh my God, you think?
I bet there are.
Yes.
There's got to be
Have you
some.
paid attention to the people who follow us? Have you read the comments under one of our videos? I'm no longer surprised by opinions people might have.
Yeah.
I definitely think there are people who didn't pay attention in history class who watch Inglourious Bastards and just file it back away, and in their mind that became what happened.
They're going to have such an embarrassing conversation someday.
I would like to watch that conversation. That would be fantastic.
Tarantino was planning to be Aldo Rain in this movie.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and in fact, if you think of it as Tarantino all the way through it, and then at the very end when he's like, "This is gonna be my masterpiece," and it says a film by Quentin Tarantino right after that. Yeah, he was going to do that at one point.
I'm glad he didn't.
Yeah, somebody finally talked him out of it. Hopefully,
Yeah, I mean, it's a great performance by Brad Pitt.
Yeah,
I mean, his Knoxville accent is not necessarily on point.
No.
Sound good.
Yeah,
But I mean, he's terrific. But he is such a tertiary character in this.
Yeah, he really is.
Which is great. That's where I like my Brad Pitt like that. I want him kind of on the sidelines.
Yeah.
Well, and what Tarantino has always done well and continues to, both with The Theater Owner and Christoph Waltz, is show us amazing actors that American audiences have never seen before or have forgotten about. Right? Like he brought back Travolta from the dead. He gave us Robert Forster and Jackie Brown. So he's really good at that. And Christoph Waltz is now a huge star in the U.S. because of this movie.
But let me ask you, has he been as good since then? Like, has he done anything I feel like he almost suffers because this movie is so good from like the Anthony Perkins syndrome in Psycho, where it's like he's so good in something that it's hard for him to be in anything else.
Well, no surprise, he is just as good in Django Unchained.
There you go, yeah.
But it's also another sort of Londa performance, only he's a good guy in this one. It's very reminiscent of him, only he's a good guy.
Yeah, well, I mean, he has the same thing where he can read people and he knows how to like interact and get the upper hand and all that stuff.
Well, and even The Legend of Tarzan, which is not a movie worth discussing, that came out this year, he's the villain in that, and he's a very Hans Landa kind of guy because he like has dinner with Jane and he's all like prim and proper, and so I do think maybe he's been pigeonholed a little bit
typecast.
And it's not his fault because there's clearly so much talent there, but maybe they're just not offering him the right roles to continue stretching.
The first thing I saw him in after I had seen this was there a movie called like Water for Elephants or something like that?
Yeah, it was Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah, it was like this.
I can't remember who the guy was. It was Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, it was Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I also saw him in that Green Hornet. That he was a bad guy in Green Hornet too, I believe. That was one of the.
What a weird movie!
Yeah,
I can't wait till we talk. It was Michel Gondry, right?
Yeah, it was. Anyway. Great movie. What else, guys, in 2009?
Up in the Air.
Yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing.
Oh, my God. I love this movie.
Yeah.
The writing in this movie is so good.
And this is not the first thing I want to talk about this movie, but it's going to be. We bitch a lot in our videos about how movies go about showing place names to us. Excessive information, like telling me it's Paris, France, when you're showing me the Eiffel Tower. This movie has one of my favorite methods of place names ever, and it's these super high up aerial shots of cities and then white text that just says, Portland, Kansas City, or what have you. And it meshes with the story because this guy's doing all this flying around all these working class cities and firing people. But I just love everything about this movie. Anna Kendrick, this is where
we all fell in love with her, right?
Yeah, this is what put her on the map. I'm pretty sure she was nominated for supporting actress. And Clooney's so good here, right? Because there's just an edge of that Clooney we know, the cool, know-it-all guy, but it's wearing off.
Yeah.
And he gets punched in the gut in this movie.
Yeah.
And
I
want to watch it right now.
Yeah, Vera Farmiga is in this, really good. And they have this sort of, thing going on, and Clooney's like, actually at this point, like, maybe I can settle down with this woman or whatever. And it's, he's about to get, a rude awakening in this thing.
What's in your backpack?
Yeah.
This movie takes a weird story. The cities that we're stopping in are flyover cities.
Yeah.
Des Moines and Akron and stuff like that.
Springfield,
Oklahoma
Missouri.
City, Springfield, Missouri.
All right, good.
But like, it's a guy who goes around firing people, but it's like exploring convention culture and like, things like that are just like normal working class thing, but makes it super compelling drama.
Yeah, and it's actually showing that his way of doing things, or what he was hired for, is going to become extinct. Because Anna Kendrick is being hired to do this on a computer.
Yeah.
Which is even worse, but nobody realizes that. They just like the idea that they don't have to sit there in the room with them and fire them and everything. But, it makes it even, they're not there to sort of comfort them and give them the sort of the things that they need while they're there. And that's just it's a shockingly, there's like a very dark undertone in this movie.
There is. But I think that scene with J.K. Simmons shows you why Clooney's belief that they should do it in person is important, right? Because he turns that guy around within 3 minutes. How much did they pay to give up on your dreams? And he's like $23,000.
Yeah.
And so, you side with him in that particular debate, technology versus doing it in person. But this is what would happen in this kind of a corporation. How can we shave costs? Well, stop sending people all over the country on planes and in hotels. Do it long distance. And the supporting cast here is amazing. J.K. Simmons, you got
Young MC.
Jason Bateman is the boss. I love when he calls Clooney at the end of the conversation. He's like, I just took a shit for the first time in 2 weeks. And Clooney goes, and this is me hanging up.
Yeah. And then there's like the minor role with Melanie Linsky and Danny McBride.
Yeah.
He's going around, with their little cardboard cutout and everything to make it look like they're at all these places. But yeah, this is a fantastic movie. Jason Reitman, who did Thank You for Smoking. We didn't talk about that movie when we did that year, but he did Thank You for Smoking, which is a really good movie. And he did Juno, which we did talk about in length. And after this, he does Young Adult, which is a movie that nobody saw, but I loved.
I thought Young Adult was great.
Yeah. And he had has a good first 4 movies. After that, he's done a couple I haven't even heard of. But hopefully he's going to go back on track at some point.
Good family genes.
Yes, he does. Ivan Reitman.
Yeah.
I just love the dialogue in this movie. I love the scene where they're talking about his airline miles.
Yeah.
And what they mean to him. And it's just...
The number is the goal.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
He doesn't have any plan for them.
You and men putting names on things,
And then once he gets it, he really does have no plan for these miles. And Anna Kendrick's like, if I had that many miles, I'd just go show up at the airport and see where a plane is going and get on. But at the end, he gives like 2/3 of his miles to like his sister and her new husband so they can circle the globe or whatever. Because he doesn't need them. He just had this goal and how lost he is after he reaches it.
Well, again, it comes down to connection and meaning. Like that's the whole theme of the movie is about how we connect and what means something. And
and if you haven't seen it, a lot of the actors in the opening and closing who are playing people getting fired are real people who were laid off. They're not actually actors. And I think that adds to the film. It adds some emotional weight. But I love it. This is up there for my recommend of the week.
Yeah.
Up there.
Yeah.
This is up in the air there.
Up there.
Every week we try and pick 1 or 2 that we're like, this is our recommend, and this would be up there if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Here's one I want to throw out that's in my up there, so to speak, is Moon.
Oh, yes.
I cannot wait to talk about Moon.
Let's talk about Moon.
Moon is fantastic.
Love Moon.
I think I like Kevin Spacey in this movie more than Sam Rockwell. He's so droll, and
part of that though is the sort of the very low rent animations of that computer that's following him around. Though, because it's got all these like little block dot matrix type graphics and everything, showing smiles and showing like sometimes you can even read into it that it's like, oh, is that happy or is that he's kind of concerned? That type of thing. But yeah, man, what an original, like, fun movie to watch, and it's got a little surprise in it, and we don't want to go that too far into this.
Yeah, it's Sam Rockwell all alone with a computer on the moon, and he's mining. What is he mining? Moon dust.
It's something.
It doesn't really matter.
And
piece of equipment breaks down, and from there, I don't want to spoil any of it. But this is Duncan Jones, who just did Warcraft this year, which. Stark difference in style.
I'm convinced. Don't hold that against him for this movie.
I'm convinced Duncan Jones must have played World of Warcraft as a video gamer, and that's
maybe so
drew him to that story because this is nothing like Moon. But yeah, Moon is fantastic. Highly recommend.
Talk about good genes, man.
Yeah, David Bowie's kid, right?
Bowie's kid.
Absolutely. He would later go on and do Source Code as well. That was
I liked that.
Yeah, another good movie. Okay, we have to talk about it. Watchmen.
Oh, yes, we do.
So this year had Avatar and Watchmen.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the year of making Jeremy angry.
It's the bluest animation ever. Like you put them side by side. It's like 6 hours of blue animation.
Is there anything to like about Watchmen?
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, I like things about Watchmen.
I do too.
I like Watchmen, but I like a lot I things about it.
My name's Barrett, and I like Watchmen.
Watch this movie. I was just like, I didn't hate it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like it. I've watched it a couple of times since, and I like it a lot more than I did.
Oh yeah.
I think and I've started reading the actual graphic novel and everything, and there's so many things in that graphic novel that I was like, why couldn't you have just done that a couple of times? Like, I know this is considered an unfilmable story and everything, but what you did with it, I'm like, there's a couple things here and there would have made this a lot better than it is in the movie. And maybe they had to cut something out. I don't know.
You just mentioned Warcraft, and I had a very similar feeling watching Watchmen as I did with Warcraft, which is I don't feel like I know enough about the source material that I'm catching half of what's going on.
Yeah,
here.
when we did the Sins of Warcraft, there were all kinds of angry people who were like, "This was a fan service movie. They made this for people who love the game," and I'm like, "Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Like a movie has to be able to stand on its own.
It does.
And I'm not going to go play a goddamn video game for 2 years just so I can understand a movie more. And as somebody who's never played it, okay, we're ending up talking about Warcraft too much, but let's go back to Watchmen.
But it was the same thing for me with Watchmen. It was like I didn't know anything about
I agree.
the source
I think
material.
if you're a fan of that graphic novel, you like this movie more than the average person does.
Yeah, maybe.
Or maybe you hate it more. Either way, it's like I didn't have the context to come out of this movie going, oh, that was great, or oh man, that was awful. I just felt like, oh, that was a movie somebody made.
There were a lot of people that were fans of the graphic novel that did not like this for many reasons, but a lot of it had to do with the ending and the things that they chose to do with Dr. Manhattan versus this crazy thing that happens in the actual novel. But yeah, I mean, the actors are really good. Jackie Earle Haley is great. Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
That's true.
So there's a lot to like there, but it doesn't connect, man. Billy Crudup.
Yeah.
And his penis.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of moments in this, but it's 3 fucking hours, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
Like if you could maybe cut out an hour or somehow, it would be, better, I guess, I don't know.
This is Zack Snyder starting to really get into self-masturbation, which I guess is kind of a redundant.
It's a little bit repetitive.
Yeah. But I know what you mean.
You know what I mean? Like it's the Batman versus Superman, predicting that like it's going to be overlong and overwrought and too much stuff. And
Batman v Superman just came on HBO last night for the first time. Still shitty.
Oh, well, that's good to know.
I just had it on in the background.
Did you stick with it for a little bit?
Don't those movies usually get better when they go to HBO?
No, but that Batman warehouse scene is still badass. Yeah. And that's the only reason I had it on in the background. But yeah, it's still terrible. I don't know if there's any Zack Snyder movie I'm just like, other than like maybe the Owls movie, that I can like give you a thumbs up for. But Watchmen's not it.
Yeah, Dawn of the Dead is my go-to Zack Snyder.
Yeah, I guess that one was pretty good.
I wish we could talk more about Watchmen, but I think we all just kind of like about it. District 9.
Mm-hmm.
What a good movie.
Yeah,
that this director has yet to follow up with success.
Right.
I love District 9. Now, there are moments that it's really hard to watch because there's just some gross stuff. But I'd never seen anything like this. Super low budget, literal aliens being kept in concentration camps, and a performance from the main character from beginning to end that's just, God, I love it. Charlton Copley? Is that how you say his name?
Yeah, Charlton Copley or Charlton Copley. One of those should be good enough.
Yeah, put him on the map for U.S. audiences. And I really love it. I could watch it anytime. Famously, one of the lowest sin counts ever on our YouTube channel.
It would be a lot different today if we did it.
Sure.
But yeah, at the time, it was very hard to, whatever rule thing we were going with at the time was really hard to come up with good sins for that movie.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, a really good one. It came in the middle of a slew of these alien invasion movies. Like what was there were 2 horrible ones. Maybe you can help me.
Battle Los Angeles.
Skyline's the other one. Skyline came out the next year. And but yeah, it was just in the middle of all that. But this one actually has real good subtext to it because it's about the South African apartheid and all that.
Yeah,
I think
that's
great
what,
setting.
Yeah,
that's what makes the movie work, in my opinion. Is the subtext is what it's about. There's a real foundation here. When you've got that foundation of story to base it on, or metaphor or whatever, it makes a lot of your decisions a lot easier on how you go about it.
Yeah,
so I think that's what makes
fucking prawns.
Yeah, we were introduced to the idea that South Africans swear more than New York City people do. Like it's pervasive. It's like one of the most pervasive swearing movies I've ever watched.
And that carries on into Chappie and all of this guy's
Oh my
film.
goodness, Chappie.
Yeah,
D. Anford.
Yeah, yeah, that too.
Yeah,
Elysium. Yeah, no. But yeah, good movie. What else, guys?
Aaron, throw one out.
I'll throw out Gran Torino.
Yeah.
Oh, we
Gran
talked
Torino.
about
We
that
did
last
talk
week.
about Gran Torino last week.
Yeah.
Okay,
and-
so 2008. You put it in 2008. Okay,
Yeah,
it was showing up as 2009.
It reminds me of Bad Santa.
Yeah. Now, here's the deal with Gran Torino. It did come out in 2008. It does have its wide release January of 2009.
Ah,
So that's why it shows up.
No,
as
I totally get it, and it's also quite possible. I was looking at because I do keep a best of list every year. I have for the last 15 years. So I was looking back at my best of 2009 list, and what's interesting is back then I didn't watch everything when it came out. Now I do because I'm official movie critic, that kind of thing. And so I would base my best of year on the year I saw it. So a lot of times I would see a movie. Like you said, it comes out early 2009 in a wide release, even though it's technically a 2008. So it could have been that too.
I mean, the thing is with the IMDb is I wish they would just give you that general, like, when was it eligible for Academy Award consideration year? Boom. And then,
that's what it should be.
And then,
award consideration.
and Google does an even worse thing where you're like, what won the best picture in 2009? And they'll show you the previous year because the actual movie won it in 2009. And I hate that.
yeah.
And I was just brought this up in one of the other podcasts. How many bets have been won based on Google's bullshit?
Yeah.
I want to go through a lot of uncreativity here that was in the top 10. We don't have to talk about the movies. Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, horrible. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, very good.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
But we don't need to talk about it very much. Twilight Saga: New Moon, also terrible.
Yeah.
In fact, Twilight movies, as each sequel comes along, get worse and worse and worse. Somehow worse every time.
It's like they started at the bottom and then just kept digging.
I'm going to contradict that just a little
Go
bit.
for it.
I actually think the final movie has some goodness in it.
Okay, I know what you're going for there.
The final part 2 actually has some
Except that
pretty
it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, totally.
Yeah.
It's an entire movie of that didn't happen.
But it is the one Twilight movie where I didn't necessarily want to slip my wrist the entire way through it.
I get you.
There's some stuff.
I get you.
And even though characters in the movie are, I didn't necessarily.
But of course, that movie also illustrates why you should never break these things into part 2 parts. Because part
that
1,
is my rant, man.
Part
I
1's
cannot
awful.
Stand that.
Also, Alvin and the Chipmunks, the Squeakquel, somehow made the top 10 that year.
Wow.
Ice Age, Dawn of the Dinosaurs, X-Men Origins Wolverine, terrible. Night at the Museum, Battle of the Smithsonian, terrible.
I'm glad you think Wolverine is terrible. I get a lot of kickback on that when I
don't know why. It's not a good movie.
No, it's actually actively bad.
Yeah.
So bad that Ryan Reynolds quit.
I just felt like, it just didn't feel like there was enough X-Men to it. It just felt, anyways.
Yeah. Fast and Furious, the reboot of the Fast and the Furious,
that's the
basically.
third one?
It's the fourth.
It's the first one where I was like, oh, I see what you're doing here. Like, it was the first one where they started understanding what kind of movie they were.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they get better from there, because they start to get what they're doing.
It gets to the point of unwatchability for me, though, because it's so they've basically made these guys superheroes.
Exactly.
Go ahead and make them superheroes.
That's exactly, yeah.
But yeah, this was the fourth one, and I guess technically it was the true sequel to the Fast and the Furious, because 2 and 3 were like in between, like prequel type of things or whatever. It wasn't really, it was
it was the first one to bring the whole gang back together and everything. So
G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra.
Oh, jeez. Poor Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah.
What in the world?
I know.
I feel the same about this movie that you feel about the original Transformers, because it's bad, but you were saying like you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I know this is bad, but I enjoyed it.
Well, and let me ask you this. Did you watch G.I. Joe cartoons when you were a kid?
Yeah.
I never did, but I watched the Transformers cartoon. So I think we have an understanding now.
Yeah.
We don't hate each other anymore.
Yeah.
Terminator Salvation.
Oh, my God.
I mean, it was just... 2009 is very close to 2005 as far as like horrible remakes and sequels.
How did Christian Bale not quit when they gave the directing gig to
what
Mick
don't
G?
you fucking understand?
But I mean, Mick G? Come on.
I know.
You give Mick G a Terminator movie and you expect it to turn out good.
I know.
Did you see the Charlie's Angels films?
I know, man.
Jesus.
Oh, my God. Okay, so that's the role of like horribleness. Is there anything good that you guys want to bring up?
Yeah. The Hangover.
Yeah.
Oh.
The Hangover is it's interesting because this was so universally praised when it came out. And I was the weird one. I think I waited until it came out on DVD. I watched it, and I was totally underwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's been... you too? Yeah.
I'm there with you, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's around like 78, 79 on Rotten Tomatoes. And I think that's probably right. Like, I probably enjoy... I know it's not how that works, but I enjoyed this about 79%.
You're right.
Well, there's some great stuff in it, but it just... I guess it was built up.
Classic example of running something into the ground with those sequels.
Oh, yeah.
That I think ultimately detract from the original.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked this when I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
I laughed a lot. Not quite as much as Tropic Thunder, but I was laughing a lot. And that's when I go see a comedy, that's what I want. I want to laugh out loud. I don't want to chuckle. I don't want a wry smile. And yeah, I'm going to fuck this tiger part.
Yeah. I was doubled over during that part.
It's a great concept in the sense, that the characters don't know what they did any more than we do. And the movie is them discovering what they did slowly over time. It's a ridiculous premise to get there.
Yeah.
But, which basically, wasn't it just that Zach Galifianakis, roofied them all?
Yeah.
Yeah, what a bastard.
Yeah. And it's got, it's technically a bigger version of Dude, Where's My Car?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly,
Dude, Where's My Car might actually technically be funnier than this movie because it's
I'm with that opinion.
so goofy.
Oh, my goodness.
But The Hangover is, obviously a more polished comedy and everything. And I love the whole little montage where Zach Galifianakis is basically Rain Man.
Yeah.
And they've got the Wolf Mother song playing during it and everything. Bradley Cooper flipping off the security cameras. That's the type of stuff I love when they go that far. And yeah, it's a crazy, insane movie. It's not as funny as you are led to believe.
Yeah.
But it still got good stuff.
I think the three leads being so linked, they work really well together with Ed Helms, Bradley Cooper, and Zach Galifianakis and Justin Bartha, who is
Poor
barely
bastard.
in the movie.
Yeah.
But even the Rob Riggle and the secondary characters and Ken Jeong, Heather Graham, yeah. I mean, there's a real good cohesiveness. You can tell everybody's having fun. It's a Todd Phillips movie, right? Which he kind of got tapped into that thing with Old School, too.
Right? He built up sort of his brand, with Old School and Road Trip and Starsky and Hutch and all that, and he finally made this one that was like the big
it was huge
breakout. Huge movie. It was 6th domestically that year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it
Damn.
was one of the highest grossing R-rated
Did
movies.
the Squeakquel make more money?
No, Squeakquel actually made about $60 million less.
Awesome.
Take that, David Cross.
Take that, Jason Lee.
Now, not wholly original in any sense, but the reboot of Star Trek came out in 2009.
I love it.
Yes. Yeah, great.
Me too.
I'm a Trekkie. I watched the original show because my mom showed it to me. We watched all the old cast movies. I watched Next Generation like it was crack.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched a lot of Deep Space Nine. I don't care that it doesn't feel like classic Trek and it's more actiony.
Mm-hmm.
This is a solid action film.
Yeah.
And again, another movie in this year that has a solid 10-minute opening that really makes you feel something. Chris Hemsworth just nails this performance.
Yeah.
And then again, Michael Giacchino's score for this movie is one of my favorite pieces of score ever.
Mm-hmm.
Ever. You can't you deny me that and I will kill you.
I agree. I really enjoyed this one, and my only gripe about it was that Eric Bana's villain turn wasn't given enough.
I thought he's good though, man.
He is good.
When they first meet him, and because this is Christopher Pike, captain of the USS Enterprise, and Eric Bana's like, "Hi, Christopher." What a winning cast, right? That's what makes this or any of these movies work, in my opinion, is the chemistry between them.
That's what I was going to talk about, is when Abrams started revealing who was going to play these roles that we'd seen on TV forever. It was just like perfect casting choice. I mean, to put Simon Pegg in there is just genius.
Mm-hmm.
And just down the line, I'm like, that's perfect. That's perfect. And I was like, this is going to be good.
Did anybody expect Chris Pine to be as good as he was, though?
No.
He's terrific.
Yeah,
and that's hard shoes to fill.
Yeah, no, and he's been terrific in a lot of stuff since. I've really been impressed with Pine's career, kind of where it's headed. So.
What else on this list, guys?
Have we talked about Where the Wild Things Are? Was that a
We
2009?
haven't.
We haven't.
Man, I love that movie.
Oh, yeah?
It hits me in some sort of combination of nostalgia and like emotional resonance about what it means to be a child. And
this was divisive, though.
No, it was very divisive, but I was on the loved end of
Yeah, I'm on that side. I didn't like it, man. I love Spike Jonze, man, and he took forever to make this movie.
He sure did.
He took about, I think, 10 years, something like that.
Time.
Like he wanted to adapt this for a really long time, and I love it visually, and everything that you say about this that is good is good about this movie. But I just get tired of it. It's repetitive to me. Like all the monsters like whining and stuff. When you hear James Gandolfini is like, yeah, it's not fair. It's not fair and all that. It's just kind of, I started getting really exhausted of it.
I can see that.
But very just visually striking. And like you said, everything that you said about it is right. It's good that way. I just didn't hit me.
Yeah, I didn't get into it either. I do think it's stunning to look at, but that's one of the few books that I read a lot when I was a kid, and I think I had a different vision than Spike Jonze did, and it never really settled for me and lined up with what I was sort of hoping for or expecting. But again, I can't say too many bad things about it.
I put it in that same category as, did you ever read and watch like Tuck Everlasting or let's see, what was another one of the kid ones? Bridge to Terabithia.
I read Bridge to Terabithia.
I saw the movie Bridge to Terabithia.
So it's kind of that same kind of thing where it's like, oh, there's just something about how you see the world as a child that some movies get.
Yeah.
And I felt like Where the Wild Things Are got that enough that I was just like, in it,
And I think most of the serious critics that I've run into have really liked this movie, and I may need to give it another chance at some point. I have only seen it the one time.
Yeah.
So maybe maybe I'll come back at it and I'll be like, oh, you know what? I was kind of being hard on that movie, But for now, I'm just, I don't like it.
No. Sometimes you have something like, you pick up on that is a valid complaint or distraction, and it just it snowballs in your brain. I have that happen too when I see a movie, especially if it's toward the beginning, and then you just keep seeing it through the entire thing, and you're just like, you can't.
That happened to me on Finding Dory.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Because within the first 5 minutes, I saw so many parallels to Finding Nemo.
Yeah,
that's all I could see.
Yeah,
the movie pissed me off. That's how much it got in my head early on. So
yeah, it'll happen.
I will say that the trailer to this movie, to Where the Wild Things Are, is great because it's got that Arcade Fire "Wake Up" song during it and everything, and I was really excited about it because I had never heard that song before the trailer. Yeah. And I was like, man, what is this? I'm like, I'm really excited about this movie.
It was perfectly used, and this movie has a great soundtrack. It was done by Carter Burwell and Karen O from the AAS.
Yeah,
and it's a beautiful soundtrack.
What else, guys?
Well, 2009, when I was prepping for this show, I realized has a high concentration of movies Chris begged me to watch that I refused to watch, but then when I watched them, I realized how right he was. And I'm going to go with my most recommended movie of the year. Watch it be from 2010, The Informant.
That's 09.
No, that's 09. I have it on my list too.
Yeah. Oh my God. It just sounded so boring.
Right?
Well, that's something that the trailer addressed. In fact, they tried very hard, to say, hey, this is a movie about corn.
Yeah.
Get kids, corn.
This is like we've never seen Matt Damon before up to this point. And it's Steven Soderbergh. Doesn't feel like a Soderbergh movie at all to me. But God, is this movie funny.
Yep.
Scott Bakula, Joel McHale, great supporting cast. Basically, you've got a guy who works at this big corn company who decides to turn them in for illegal doings, and FBI agents. God, I love how frustrated they get with him throughout this whole movie.
One of the few movies where internal narration is absolutely needed and welcome and beautiful. It's how you do it. you know,
well, because he's having so much fun being a spy and doing spy things. And geez, I could watch this movie all day, every day.
Yeah, it's got great. So many like little. I mean, when he goes off on his little, narration rants, they're all about like things that have nothing to do with the movie. Yeah, and they're just hilarious.
Factoids.
Every single one. Yeah, exactly. That's a big recommend out of this podcast. This one, because very few people have seen that movie, and it's fantastic.
I don't know how you could have thought it was boring. There's an exclamation point right in the title.
Right.
It does have a great poster.
Yeah, it's Matt Damon just looking up.
The other one I wanted to mention that took me too long to take Chris's advice to watch was Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Oh, yeah.
I only just watched for the first time like a year and a half ago. It took me that long because I was so burned out on Wes Anderson's visual style trumping character for me. Because after Rushmore, I feel like the characters start to go by the wayside, except for, I don't know when the one with Ed Norton came out about the camping. I really like that
Moonrise
one.
Kingdom. I think it was
that's my
2012.
favorite. That's my favorite.
I really like
Moonrise
that
Kingdom.
one. But I stayed away from this for the longest time. But this movie is magic.
Yes, it
is.
is.
This movie is charm come to life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's a crazy, great voice cast with George Clooney again, Meryl Streep as his wife, Jason Schwartzman as the kid, and then you have Bill Murray, you have Michael Gambon. I mean, and everything is it's very short and sweet.
Yep.
Really all it is, he's been told by his wife not to go over to these like 3 rich farmers' place and steal anything anymore, but he can't help himself. And when the farmers decide they're going to turn the tide and everything, he's like, I'm going to knock off all 3 of them in one night, basically Ocean's 11.
Yeah.
And it's whimsical and hilarious all the way through.
Yeah,
it.
I'm pumped that he's now working on another stop motion film. His next film will be about dogs.
Yeah.
And this is so good. I'm already in the pocket for this next one.
He needed to shake himself loose, and it took this to really find get back on track, and then he would go on to do Moonrise Kingdom and things like that. But after he got to the Darjeeling Limited, you could tell like he was just kind of stuck in that rut, even if he was in a different continent. And changing this medium really refocused him.
Yeah.
Also, some of the best cursing in a kid's movie.
Yeah, they just say cuss.
Yeah.
You even see the graffiti in the background where they've written cuss and everything. This is so good. And man, I can't recommend that one enough. Another like beloved, Roald Dahl's another beloved children's writer.
Yeah.
They did. Where the Wild Things Are was another one. Maurice Sendak. All right. What else, Gus?
Well, if we want to go on kids movie, I had a couple I wanted to mention because I thought there were some good ones that came out this year. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Oh, yeah. I never saw that.
There's a lot of magic in that movie. It's kind of one of those wish fulfillment movies. I felt the same way about How to Train Your Dragon, which I think comes next year, but where you just you watch it and you go, oh, that's fun. And it's got that manic sense of humor to it that I think some of the best kids movies do. Disney went back hand-drawn animation with The Princess and the Frog. I thought that was worth mentioning.
I loved it. And I don't know if it did enough business for them to continue doing it, though. Even though it made $100 million domestic, but they never really did it again. They basically said, you know what, we're going to do this computer animation thing, and it's going to be... it's going to be Big Hero 6 and all these.
Yeah, there's a place for that. I mean, there's always going to be a place for traditional 2D animation.
Yeah, it'll come back.
Yeah.
I think they've just got all the mechanics in place for the computer generated stuff, so it's easier, and more efficient to do it that way with a lot of stuff. And the other one was Coraline.
Coraline is fantastic.
That came out in 2009
one of the few
as well.
movies I saw in 3D, actually. I hate 3D, but we had no other choice. We really wanted to see it, and this was the only showtime that we could see it. And super gimmicky 3D in that movie.
Yeah.
That's one of those, they must have come along behind after the movie was done and made the hammer come out toward the screen or what have you. But I loved the movie.
Yeah, I watched it in 2D, and I was not distracted by all that nonsense that they put in there. Great movie,
creepy movie.
Yeah, absolutely. You have another few?
No, that was kind of the list of the kids movies that came out that year that I thought were worth mentioning.
Yeah, speaking of kids movies, Zombieland came out.
Yeah, totally.
And speaking of Bill Murray too.
Yes,
this was a really, really fun movie.
Yes, it was.
I had a lot more fun with Zombieland than I did with The Hangover.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Just from the very beginning, Jesse Eisenberg is just, it takes all of his like kind of social awkwardness tendencies and really makes him sing. You know? And playing him across from Woody Allen and then eventually Emma Stone, man, it's a great action comedy. It's a great
You said
zombie.
Woody Allen.
Did I say Woody Allen?
You did. I just realized that.
Wow.
Well, he's just in a Woody Allen movie, or at least was just shooting one.
Yes, he was.
And you love Woody Allen, so
Yeah,
but you
wow.
mean Harrelson.
Woody Harrelson.
Yeah.
I'm leaving that shit in there. I don't fucking give a shit.
I know, I think it's funny.
Anyway, Zombieland is good.
It was the year of Jesse Eisenberg being in land movies because Adventureland came out.
Yeah.
And Kristen Stewart's in
Love
that.
Adventureland.
I do too. And I think that's one of my favorite Jesse Eisenberg performances because you really kind of feel that awkwardness. It's just the perfect setting. It's set I think it's set in the 80s, isn't it?
I think
workers at this discount Disneyland basically. That's worth a look if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, I mean you can see him just prepping his character for the Social Network coming up, you know. Anyway, it's great, especially Woody Allen's part. He was my favorite.
Yes,
he was great in Adventureland.
Yeah, a lot of makeup on that guy, and he was very unrecognizable. Adventureland has one of my favorite lines ever when the guy's like, you better not go to sleep, and he's like, why not? And he's like, because I'm going to jerk off all over your face.
Isn't Ryan Reynolds in Adventureland too?
Yeah, he's like, yeah. Okay, so what else, guys?
Have we talked about 500 Days of Summer? Is that a 2009?
Yeah, I got it on my list.
Yeah.
Boy, did I like this movie.
Yeah.
If only for that split screen section. I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt is great throughout, but I love when there's a moment here where the screen splits and it shows you alternate versions of how the evening could have gone. And I love that. And I also love that it's not your typical romantic comedy in that they don't end up together.
Yeah.
And it's Zooey Deschanel, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, really winning cast, really charming. Who made that movie?
I don't remember.
it was Mark Webb.
Mark Webb.
Yeah. Who would later do The Amazing Spider-Man.
And The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Indeed.
Poor bastard.
I know. His name's Webb, so we got to make him the director of Spider-Man. Yep.
But have we learned our lesson? No.
No.
We're still giving indie directors big, huge tentpole summer films. Whatever. But I love 500 Days of Summer.
Pretty delightful movie overall. Yeah.
think so.
I mean, like you said, I like it because of the relationship is it's going the way you feel like normal romantic comedies do, only in typical romantic comedies, it's like, well, where's going to be the breakup? Where's going to be the stupid thing that breaks these people up so that he can go and say, I fucked up, we should be together. And that's how they movie ends. This time he doesn't really know. And she doesn't really know. It's very adult that way, she doesn't know really. She just knows that she's not in love with him. And I really love that about this movie.
Yeah. And unless you're Aaron and you married your high school sweetheart, everybody has relationships before the relationship, right? And I think those have value. I make a lot of cracks in our videos about my college ex-girlfriend who's just this amalgamation of all the girls I dated in college. But I look back at most of those relationships fondly. They all changed me as an individual and helped shape me into the person who could love my wife today. And very few movies celebrate those relationships. It's always got to be the happily ever after at the end because Hollywood is, either Hollywood is dumb or the movie-going public is dumb or both. But anyway, check it out if you haven't seen it.
Another good comedy is I Love You, Man.
Yeah.
Paul Rudd and Jason Segel.
Uh-huh.
Paul Rudd is dating Rashida Jones, and he's about to marry her, and they find out he doesn't have a true male friend. So it goes along the lines of like a romantic comedy, only looking for a friend. And Paul Rudd does everything like your typical female character would do in this movie. It's fun to watch him because all the little things that he does in this is just like, oh, okay, I see what we're going for here. But I Love You, Man is a funny movie.
I love the trail of kind of missed bromances like Thomas Lennon, and Jon Favreau and his buddies and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And Andy Samberg plays his brother-in-law.
Yeah. J.K. Simmons is in this too.
J.K. Simmons. This has got a really good cast overall, and it's Jason Segel in kind of chill out bro mode.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Jeremy said recently, like, he may not like this as much as we do because he doesn't like Rush. I don't like Rush. Rush is prominently featured in this movie.
Yeah,
it's
but
a
it's
character.
not nearly as much as you guys say it is.
No, it's not.
Like, that's bullshit
They're
to say you
bonding
don't
over
like
their
the movie
love
because
of
of
Rush.
Rush.
I didn't say that. I said maybe because I don't care about Rush. That's part of why I didn't
It's
get
like
because they talk about Rush like
5 minutes,
every other scene.
5 minutes of the movie.
No,
No,
they're practicing.
I will count for you. It's 5
All right.
minutes.
Well, we're going to have to
There's
count
a
later.
concert, there's a practice, and then they talk about it on the phone. That's it.
And then Rush shows up at the end.
I showed you. That told you it was a concert. There was a
I specifically mentioned a concert.
mention the goddamn concert.
The wedding band is playing Rush music at the end.
Okay, fine. 6 minutes.
Okay, all right. Well, we can agree on 6 minutes. I don't think the movie's bad. I think it's funny. I just don't like it as much as you guys do.
Yeah. Also coming out, Funny People, which I remember someone saying, "Funny people, not so funny and not any people." Discuss. Judd Apatow is making a movie here that's half drama, half his Apatow stuff, and it's got Adam Sandler in it, and it's just not good.
It misses the mark
It's
for me.
super long. Eric Bana's in this too, and he's probably the best part of this movie.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Seth Rogen is good. You know, he's trying
good.
to learn the ropes. Adam Sandler, I guess, is trying to get back into his Punch Drunk Love dramedy type of thing.
Yeah, it's one of those weird movies where, like, they in the trailer they made a big deal about him having cancer, and then like halfway through it, he doesn't have cancer anymore. And it kind of runs along the lines of what Punchline did, where it's just going through a lot of the stand up, careers and everything like that, and we get to see some funny, like, Seth Rogen doing stand up and Aubrey Plaza doing stand up and everything. And also I believe this is sort of loosely based on Apatow and Sandler when they were friends, like when they were younger and everything too.
Don't you think? I love Punchline. Don't you think there should be more movies, good movies made about stand-up comedy? But there's not. I mean, you had Lenny back in the day, but
considering that Punchline and this movie didn't really do anything, that's probably why we will never see them.
I guess so.
Yeah, it's hard to make those movies. Anything else, guys?
I'm sure I've got the wrong year, but when my research showed In the Loop.
Yeah. Love In the Loop.
Yet another movie I watched because Chris told me I really needed to see it. And this is from the people who would go on to make Veep.
Yes.
And so if you like Veep and that style of comedy, In the Loop is that. And it's fantastic.
An incredible turn from Peter Capaldi, who would later become the new Doctor Who and everything. That's what people know him for most now. But this is such a profane, but perfectly everything that they say, the turns of phrase in this movie are so perfectly hit.
Yeah.
They really took some thought into these type of things, and that's what they do in Veep too.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
it's just one of those things. But man, this movie's got so much like dialogue and chew on for days in this and everything. Love it. It's great.
Me too.
Aaron, you got any others?
Was A Serious Man 2009?
Yes, it was. It got Best Picture nomination.
I really enjoyed Serious Man.
I do too. We might be the only ones in this room.
I know, right? Or possibly in the universe. I don't know. But I really think, what's the name of the guy that stars in it?
Michael Stuhlbarg.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that you see in movies all the time, but it's kind of the only movie I've seen him star in, and I thought he was really
he's fantastic. This is the Coen brothers again, and I think a lot of people sort of recognize this as the story of Job.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
And I love it. It is so delightfully weird, but it's just got those just moments. Like, if you can get along with the weirdness that's in this movie, you can really enjoy it, if you're, I don't know what the key is for people to really enjoy this movie. I know I've watched it like 5 or 6 times.
I saw it once and wasn't super moved by it. I think for a lot of people coming off No Country for Old Men, they didn't expect this from the Coen brothers because it is not anything like that at all. But so, yeah, I don't really recall it very well enough to speak to it. but I remember not liking it that much.
Isn't one of the charms of the Coen brothers that they can make such different movies, but they all still feel like Coen brothers movies? Like, it's a really interesting thing. You think of like Hudsucker or Serious Man or No Country, and you're like, those are three very different movies, but they all feel like, Coen brothers movies for sure.
And this one has the scene, the guy, he's looking for answers, and he goes to his like he's not a dentist. He goes to some sort of religious man. I don't think it's a rabbi. But the guy tells him this story about like how this dentist saw these symbols on the back of this guy's teeth.
Yeah.
And he's like, what does it mean? Why does he have these symbols on the back of his teeth? And ultimately, the whole point of that story is that it is pointless and that you can't know anything and everything. And he's like, why? And Michael Stuhlbarg's like, okay, so what were the symbols? He's like, who cares? He's like, who cares? It's like, well, isn't that the point of the story? Isn't that why you were telling me the story? And he's like, it just, the story still doesn't have any real payoff in the end and everything. I love it though. It's just one of those movies you have to be in the mood for.
Well, good. I'm glad somebody else does.
Yeah.
Okay, here's one that you probably don't want to talk about, but I do.
Okay.
Michael Jackson's This Is It.
Oh,
Did any of you see it?
Oh, yeah. I did. Oh, yeah. I did see it.
I loved it just for the simple fact of just thinking what that tour would have been like. Just to see all the practice footage and the thought he was putting into it. It was a different side of seeing Michael Jackson, in a time when, he was kind of cast aside just as, being crazy in his later life, but to see this and to go, okay, what could have happened? Could there have been a resurgence? Could he have found his way back to make incredible music? And I don't know. I found it very fascinating.
I was surprised how much I liked that movie.
Yeah.
Why would you watch a bunch of practice concert footage and make it compelling with an aging pop icon that can barely get out of bed, reportedly.
Yeah.
And then you see him on stage and he comes alive.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating how he runs his backup dancers, how like he just knows what to do.
Yeah.
And he's trying to communicate that, and it doesn't always get across because not everybody can do what he can do. Oh man, it's really good.
And I've heard stories about how he creates music and how he'll sing every part of his songs before he actually produces them. So I guess a lot of people do that on YouTube now with kind of like acapella loops and that kind of stuff. He was doing that for the Thriller album and all that stuff back in the day. So it's just interesting to see that brain at work. So
yeah,
I thought that was good.
Any other major ones you want to bring up? I'll start a rundown.
What do you guys think about Sherlock Holmes?
Yeah,
man. I'm kind of like halfway on that one.
Yeah.
I like Robert Downey Jr. as Sherlock. And I think some of the like little, interesting little, future predicting type of things are kind of cool, but overall, yeah.
But it gets Holmes so wrong.
Yeah.
Like it gets the character of Sherlock Holmes so wrong. Like even the future predicting stuff. That's not what Holmes was about. He was about past predicting. He was about deduction, so I don't know.
I mean, on paper, it's just like with Public Enemies, on paper, this looked like it was going to be good. Jude Law, Guy Ritchie, Rachel McAdams, and Robert Downey Jr. How can he not hit with that? How can he not hit with Johnny Depp playing John fucking Dillinger too? But, anyway, it just wasted opportunities there, I think.
Okay, I'm going to do a little rundown here. The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, I only mentioned the remake of it because the original is so good. And you need to watch the original Taking Pelham 1, 2, 3. That's classic.
I'm a huge Denzel fan, but watch the original.
Yeah, original is fantastic. Walter Matthau, one of his best performances. Friday the 13th remake came out. That was terrible. Bruno, which was the, I guess spiritual sequel to Borat.
Bruno.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same movie. It's
basically the same movie, and everybody at this point has seen Borat, so it's kind of hard for him to keep doing this thing. And obviously, I mean, he hasn't tried to do anything since.
Well, I believe this was the year that Sacha Baron Cohen, dressed as Bruno, came into the VMAs and famously landed on Eminem with his ass facing up.
Yeah.
And he had that whole, what may have been a staged reaction to it.
Yeah. Precious, which was, a little indie that could, and Gabourey Sidibe, I think is her name, got a nomination for it, and she's good in it. I hated this movie, though.
Yeah, I didn't like the movie either. Also has the most ridiculous movie title in the history of mankind, how
based on the novel Push by
Precious,
Sapphire.
based on the novel Push by Sapphire.
Yeah,
that's the actual title of the movie.
Yeah,
really?
Yes.
Well, yeah, and the Oscar nominations where they're announcing them, they had to go through the whole
that whole thing.
The same thing happened with Borat. They would have to read out the Borat cultural learnings made great nation of Kazakhstan.
yeah. I know it. Was a big hit for a lot of people. I didn't like it. The Lovely Bones, we've talked about that before, how terrible that movie is. That's one I read the book of, and I'm like, how do you make a movie out of this? Well, you don't.
You shouldn't.
Yeah. Drag Me to Hell. Great.
I love this movie.
Sam Raimi is off of his Spider-Man, and he's like, I'm going to just make a movie I love.
Yeah, he's just stretching. He's
my
this
God.
is Evil Dead territory. It's awesome.
Oh, it's such a good horror movie. Crazy Heart, which got Jeff Bridges an Oscar.
Yeah.
Great performance.
Yeah, very good performance in that. Then there's Invictus, which is the Nelson Mandela movie Clint Eastwood directed, Matt Damon.
It's like Matt Damon had both ends of the spectrum this year. Right?
Yeah.
His accent was amazing in that, though.
Well, yeah, the movie's boring.
Yeah, it is.
I do want to throw one more out just because I wonder if I'm the only one that kind of likes it. But did anybody else dig Ryan Reynolds and Sandra Bullock in The Proposal?
I didn't see it.
I thought they worked together.
It's charming. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's one of those simple rom-coms that, you can actually walk away from thinking, I'm not worse off for seeing that movie.
I remember almost nothing about that movie. I do remember watching it, though.
It was on repeat for a while for my wife. Mm-hmm. So I've seen it a few times.
A sort of kind of big cult hit, Gamer. Mark Neveldine, Brian Tyler, who did the Crank movies, did this, and it's Jared Butler and the Michael C. Hall from Dexter.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's I don't know. You have to really be in the mood for a Neveldine Taylor movie to really because they're very hyperkinetic type of directors and everything, and I feel like they know what they're doing. So I mean, they know what kind of genre they wallow in, so they end up being fun movies. Enter the Void. Gaspar knows this movie is fucked up, man. Yeah, he did Irreversible, and it is so hard to watch. I just wanted to mention it because if you ever just do some drug, if you're a drug person, do some drugs and watch this movie.
But only if you're a drug person.
Exactly. Jeremy may be kidding there, but no, be on drugs. I'm not saying to go do drugs, but I'm saying if you're already a drug person.
But Barrett can edit it to make it sound like you're saying go do drugs.
I didn't see this movie, but maybe you did? Human Centipede?
No.
Okay.
This was thankfully before I was watching everything.
Okay.
So no, I did not have to endure that.
Yeah.
If you're going to do movies that you really shouldn't watch, but are really good, Antichrist came out this year.
Oh, yeah,
Lars von Trier's.
I know some people who love that movie.
Oh, that's hard to watch.
Yeah.
But, I mean.
Is that the one with Paul Bettany?
No, this has Willem Dafoe and Charlotte Gainsbourg.
Yeah, Charlotte Gainsbourg in it.
It's about a couple that their toddler falls out of a window and then all the crazy shit that happens
and
afterwards.
Because their toddler falls out of a window, it turns into a weird psychosexual drama.
Sure, exactly.
That's what always happens with those type of things. A movie called An Education came out with Carey Mulligan. That's sort of our first introduction to Carey Mulligan.
It's actually a decent film.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Fanboys, which was about the people who wanted to go see the new Star Wars before it came out and everything, has that great ending line. Hey guys, what if it sucks? A Perfect Getaway came out. We were talking about that. This is
Steve Zahn.
Yeah, this is a movie that obviously hardly anybody saw. It's not like anything that's going to make a lot of money or anything, but one of those movies I fired up one night when I was at the movie theater, watched it, and I was like, man, I'm really digging this.
This movie, I don't want to say much about it at all because I will ruin it if I say much about it.
Right.
But it does something shockingly cool.
Yes.
And it's from a storytelling perspective.
And it makes sense when you go back to it. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, they didn't break any rules or anything, and it's perfect.
Yeah, I really liked it.
And I do want to mention I Love You, Philip Morris, because that's a good Jim Carrey, Ewan McGregor movie, good comedy.
You don't want to talk about Bad Lieutenant?
You don't want to talk about Paul Blart Mall Cop?
Definitely don't want to talk about Paul Blart Mall Cop. Bad Lieutenant is this is where you get Nicolas Cage and say, go ahead and be Nicolas Cage, man. And it'll work somehow in this movie. And
it is really a perfect universe. It's not a remake, right?
No, it's basically like a parallel universe type of movie or whatever. There's no mention of the original, I don't think. But Nicolas Cage, one of his very most manic performances you've ever seen.
Which is saying something.
It is saying something.
Crazy.
Werner Herzog directed that.
Wasn't he also in Knowing that year?
Yeah, he was, which was a bad movie.
It's terrible.
Unless you like it.
That doesn't make it a great movie if I like it, but I don't. So we're safe.
Yeah, The Men Who Stare at Goats. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Right. I think we're getting into the dregs now.
On, yeah.
Okay, today's order is Jeremy, Chris, Barrett, and Aaron.
This could get interesting. All right, Jeremy's going first for the first time in, well, I guess it's 3 weeks, but Up in the Air. And it just has a little bit of everything for me. It's got romance. I think the montage at his sister's wedding is just really charming and romantic. It's got a gut punch. It's got humor, and it got a lot to say about a lot of different topics. And if you have never seen it, and I think that could be a lot of you because it didn't get tons of attention when it came out, I really don't think you could dislike this movie. And if you do, send me a card and tell me about it. But Up in the Air is my pick.
I know that we started doing this based on like cultural, significance and all that. I think we've definitely changed over the years because it's harder and harder to find that movie that's actually got that cultural significance and everything. But, and here's a case of a movie that nobody saw. And I'm going to say Fantastic Mr. Fox is my favorite movie of 2009.
Good pick.
Because it is just, it's just, I don't think there's any bad moment in it. And it's just a fun movie to watch all the way through. So that's going to be my pick.
Yeah, well, I will make it interesting because my pick is Inglourious Bastards. I think this is probably the third best Tarantino film behind Jackie Brown and Pulp Fiction in some order.
I would agree with that.
It's terrific, and it's a genre. It's a total departure for him. I mean, this is not Southern California. It's a whole different universe for him.
Yeah, and famously, he stewed on this movie for years. Like, he did interviews way before about, I want to do like my own version of The Dirty Dozen, and almost to the point where you would think he might swing and miss. He's wanted to do it for so long, but he didn't. I think it's a home run.
Yeah, it's great. All right, so that's my pick. Aaron, you may have the deciding vote if you have one of those three.
Aaron's going to vote Up.
My vote starts with Up.
Yep.
And it also ends with Up. Yes, it is Up. I'm, as Jeremy knows, and many people who follow my stuff know, Pixar is like, top for me. So my entire studio is decked out on Pixar stuff. And it's, I think, my fourth favorite Pixar movie. So it's way up there.
All right.
I can't argue with any of those. And Up is actually my second round pick.
Okay.
Because it does represent the last truly great Pixar movie, at least until Inside Out.
I was going to say, we can talk about Inside Out, but yeah.
Yeah. And not The Good Dinosaur. No. But Up is it's just winning and charming, and I can't say enough good things about it. So both of my picks have the word Up in the title.
Yeah, man.
Yep. I'm going to go Inglourious Bastards on my second pick.
This is going to get fun.
Yeah. So yeah, this is just a all around fantastic movie, man. I don't. It's another one that I don't ever get bored watching, and even the slow moments are informative and great.
Yeah.
So you gotta go with it.
I love the slow moments. Probably some of the most ones that I like. I'm going with Up in the Air. So the math is going to get all we need, like a T9 or something like that. So Aaron, what's your second pick?
I think I'm going to solve this. Up in the Air is my number
there
2.
You go.
All right.
Up in the air.
That could easily have been a When Harry Met Sally situation.
It could have.
There, where we vote so many rounds deep, we award some decent movie that's not the best.
I almost
of the year.
went with Moon. I really like Moon, but
you could just go with Moon, and I would not argue.
No. Up in the Air is. I think that's the right choice.
Yeah. A lot of ups there.
Yeah.
All right.
We got ups.
Way to go, Clooney.
Yeah. Woohoo.
He had a very good chance of being in one of the movies that we picked. So today we're gonna sort of talk about the process by which reviewers review.
I am a movie critic by trade.
That was very strange.
It was very weird.
Peculiar.
It was kind of amusing.
Yes, it was rather funny.
It was incredibly funny.
I loved it.
Hilarious.
Hated it.
2 very enthusiastic thumbs up.
I didn't like this movie at all. My first problem was the fact that I couldn't say the title. I get tired of titles I can't pronounce and shit.
We're going to be talking about what is our process when we go in and watch a movie. Are we in there to hate it? Are we in there to love it? Or do we have any real, like, preconceived notions before we even go watch it? Anyway, Aaron Dicer is here with us. He's on the Your Movie Friend on YouTube and everything. What is your process?
So I like to think there's 2 reasons you listen to a reviewer or a critic, right? There's the, do I want to see this reason?
Mm-hmm.
Like, give me some information. Let me know if I'm going to go check this out. The other is calibration. This is the other reason. You may have seen it as well as they've seen it, and you kind of want to calibrate. Like, do I think the same way they do?
Yeah.
Do I see it the same way? What's interesting, neither of those 2 reasons are about saying if the movie is quantitatively good or bad. It's about finding a process to understand movies.
Yeah.
So I think if you look at it that way, I think you come off a lot better than trying to figure out, okay, here's how the math works. That's, got to be an A-. I mean, you do some of that, but I think for the most part, it's, letting whoever know or going to whoever to find out, how am I going to feel about this movie?
Well, and that's what I like about the reviews you do on YouTube, Your Movie Friend, where you're basically doing these, at least from what I've seen, these 5 things to know about this movie. And sometimes you delve into things you liked or didn't within those 5 things to know, but what you're trying to do is give the viewer enough information to decide whether or not they should go see this.
Yeah, because it's not up to me to decide, whether a movie is good or bad. It's up to me to decide, to give you the information you need to make your decisions. That's how I see it.
Right, and
not every critic sees it that way. A lot of critics see themselves on this high throne where they get to declare, oh, this is a good movie, this is a bad movie. I just don't see it that way.
Well, and I think that shows in your work. And there's a lot of YouTube movie critics that are successful. I'm a big fan of Chris Stuckman.
Me
I
too.
like Jeremy Johns a lot.
Awesome.
And those guys typically go deep on reviews. They'll talk for 30, 35 minutes, kind of like what we do on the podcast when we review a film. Now, we have been accused as Cinemasins of being movie reviewers and have vehemently denied that since our inception. We're just comedic assholes. We do now review films in a podcast format, but I wouldn't call us even professional reviewers. Now, Chris wrote reviews on a website for years and years and was one of my favorite reviewers to read, probably because we share taste. And that's another thing I think that helps a reviewer find their audience, at least when they are doing that declarative, this is good or bad. I want to read reviews from people that generally agree with me about it.
Yeah, and that's the calibration process, right? You tend to gravitate towards people you can trust, and you can trust them because you see most of the stuff kind of the same way.
Yeah,
so
that's exactly what it. And that's why I always loved reading Roger Ebert. I used to read Owen Gleiberman at Entertainment Weekly a lot because we just kind of had the same reactions to movies.
And you got to declare yourself too. You have to make some sort of statement. Chris actually had like a mission statement type of thing on his website there, where it's like, this is my critical philosophy. And Chris is a smart guy, and you want to make sure that this person knows what they're talking about, even if they don't agree with you, you don't have the same taste. They need to know what they're talking about, and that's what I really am drawn to. Smart people that know about movies. This is their opinion, whether you agree with it or not. I've obviously disagreed with a lot of popular reviewers, but as long as I get what you're saying, I'm good with that.
Yeah, you're looking for the audience, just like anything. You're looking for that audience that cares about what you say. Not everybody's going to care about what you say. The reason why people gravitate towards certain reviewers is because, just like what you were saying, is that he kind of says what I think about movies and everything. Every once in a while, there's going to be a disagreement there or whatever. There are so many factors, though, and this is just coming from being a projectionist and then writing the reviews the next morning or even the night of watching the movies. You are tired going in sometimes. Sometimes you have a preconceived notion about what that movie's going to be before you go in, and then you don't give it a very good, review because of it. I always would do this. I would kill myself a lot of times. Would watch these movies till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, sometimes later, and then try to get that review written before I went to bed. So, I'm writing at 3:00 in the morning about some movie a lot of times, and then I have to go back and like, did I really? And I always avoided Rotten Tomatoes and all that just to make sure that I was writing something that wasn't like everybody else was writing.
Right.
I would go and later look at Rotten Tomatoes and say, okay, my opinion either conforms or doesn't with the Rotten Tomatoes.
Well, and way back in the day when Ain't It Cool News started, that's what I liked about Harry Knowles' reviews, which have gone off the rails for me in the last several years. But he would tell you all about his day and his state of mind before he went in to see the film, because he understood that impacts how much he likes or dislikes a movie, how much history he has with a certain property or what have you. And not everybody takes that approach, for sure. In fact, most reviewers do the exact opposite, and they don't tell you anything about their state of mind before they read.
I think objectivity is a myth. Like I think it's something I get trying to be objective, but when you're reviewing art, it's always going to be subjective. It's always going to be based on who you are, where you came from, what you believe, how you see the world, what state of mind you were in when you saw it. You can't, you're human. You can't change that. You can try to dial it back, and I think you probably should a little bit, so you're not just a raving fanboy like I might be about Pixar sometimes. But at the end of the day, you are who you are, and you just got to be honest about it, I think.
Yeah.
The thing is now is when I'm watching a movie at this point is it'll be, and it's never for the purpose of reviewing it later. It's more of, okay, am I liking this or not? And a lot of times it's like, I'm not liking this. Why is it that I'm not liking this? And then you start going back into where the movie has been, what it's done so far, and you realize that, oh, it's this. They took a turn here that I wasn't too thrilled with. I would have liked to have seen this or whatever. And
you do that during?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Now, I mean, sometimes I will wait until I'll wait until after the movie a lot of times to consider that. But I remember watching the movie Red with a whole bunch of people at Hollywood 27, and 20 minutes into that movie, I turned to the guy and I was like, you know what? This isn't very good. and he's like, yeah, I know. And I was just, I couldn't put my finger on it. And then later on, I thought about it and like, yeah, this is the reason why this isn't very good. And here's how I'm going to articulate this and everything. So yeah, sometimes it's during the movie. It's a lot of times it's after the movie. Yeah. It really depends on what you're feeling at the time. If it's a really bad movie, then you're going to start thinking, you're going to start drift. Yeah.
Well, and I think one of the reasons I like that you call your reviews or your channel your movie friend is that I think what a lot of, like, if you're a big movie fan and you read reviews, you're looking for somebody that can advise you the way a friend would.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And Chris and I have known each other for 17 years now. Our taste has always been similar, but we've grown to know each other even better to where, like, I asked him the other night over email about Krampus because I knew he had just watched it, and I was like, is that any good? And he was like, it's a C+. That's all I need to know.
Right.
Like, I know enough about his taste that the odds are very slim I'm going to watch Krampus and really like it, and I'm going to move on. So when I'm reading a movie reviewer who I don't have that personal relationship with, I want that trust level. Right? That's what at least Jeremy wants when he's reading or watching reviews.
I think trust is key. And actually, some of the biggest positive feedback I get on my horror movie reviews, I hate horror movies. Like, it's really interesting because they're the ones where I respect the audience enough to go, okay, if you love horror movies, here's what you're going to like about it, even though I don't. Even though I'm going to give this a D+. You may love this because, you enjoy horror movies for what they are and you see things that I don't see. Now, when I see a horror movie I actually enjoy, which that happens usually once a year, there's, like I think of like It Follows or something like that where I'm like, wow, that is beautifully crafted, amazing work, that kind of stuff. It allows another level of honesty and trust to be able to say, oh, he really liked this because we know he'll be honest and say, that he has preconceived notions about horror movies. So I just think there's an importance in, kind of keeping that up front and honest.
How do you deal with, because you get screeners as a professional critic.
Yeah.
So you get to see films a lot of times before they come out, but these are being sent to you by the studio.
Right. And
how do you balance trying to give an honest opinion with trying not to piss off the studio so they stop sending you screeners?
Interesting story. I'm not worried about the studios except in copyright strikes on YouTube, which is just like, Can we just make a whitelist already for some channels?
Oh, it exists. It's just impossible to get on it.
Yeah, it's the white whale.
Anyways, as far as screeners go, I'm not worried about the studios or anything, like that with screeners. I'm worried about some of my personal handshake, kind of local stuff, like with theaters. Because if the theater owners feel like I'm trashing a movie and telling people not to go to the movies, then that handshake deal is gone. So I don't pay for movies because I have handshake deals with the local theaters to promote their stuff on my.
And by handshake
YouTube
deals, you mean like they give you weed and shit?
I just mean there's no written contract. That's all I mean. So in fact, the last theater that I worked something out with to be able to screen for free with them, they very in the email said you cannot lampoon or trash a movie or we'll take the deal. And I emailed them back and said, I can't promise that what you will see from me won't qualify for your definition of that, but I want you to know I love movies and I want people to go to the theater. So I'm always going to give, especially on TV when I do reviews on television every weekend, I always give, if I review 2 bad movies, I'll give a third option that people can go see so that they know there's something worth, going out to see. So
this is that common misconception about critics too, is that critics only like what's going to win Oscars and stuff like that, which is one of the things that I hate the most about the commoners,
the plebes.
Yeah. No, I hate it when I hear that, when somebody says they like a movie and it's usually a trash movie or something like that. And it's fine. You can have that opinion or whatever, but don't couch that by saying, well, it wasn't trying to win an Oscar or anything. You know, it's not trying to please the critics or anything. Yeah. Most critics, I think, realize that when they go in to watch, Transformers or something like that. They're not looking for Oscar caliber movie. They're just looking for something that just for once isn't stupid and loud.
Well, there's also the preconception that reviewers like to give negative reviews or like to hate on movies. When I think all of us in this room, every movie we go see, we want that to be good.
Oh, yeah, it bums me out when I have to give an awful review.
Yeah,
it bums me out.
But because you've not only that, but you've wasted 2 hours of your life on something bad. And so, I think there are certainly critics out there who have gotten bitter, like Anton Ego, and they just trash everything or trash too much. But I think the general ones, I think Chris Stuckman goes into every movie hoping it's good. Because we love movies. You don't go into reviewing films if you're not a film fanatic.
Right.
Well, I think that's something that Siskel and Ebert had to address when they were about to do their Godzilla review. And, Godzilla is obviously really bad, bad.
And
movie.
even has an Ebert.
And it has an Ebert, and everything. And they basically said, look, we want everything to be good. We don't hate Roland Emmerich, personally.
I do now, though.
Oh, yeah?
They may not, but I do now.
You hate him personally?
No, I don't hate him personally.
I was like, now there's some stories coming out.
No, I just hate his work. He's just a cliche.
Just to clarify, there's no stories about Roland Emmerich.
And for you now, Jeremy, coming in the door, Roland Emmerich.
It's our new format, Scandals and Animals.
Yes, exactly. But he said that, they said that, look, we go into everything wanting to like it. We don't go in saying, man, I can't wait to give our savage review of Godzilla. We want to come out and say, man, that was better than we thought it was going to be. And, man, it's nothing personal. I mean, sometimes I guess it is. With some people, it's personal or whatever. There was a reviewer a while back that I used to read just for this kind of value, and it was Armand White. Do you remember this guy?
No.
He typically was like a critical troll of the internet.
Yeah.
Just about every review of anything that was worthwhile, he was like, well, this just doesn't hack it and blah, blah, blah. And it would be movies that are 99% most of the time. And then like something like Transformers would come out and he would be like,
oh, I do remember this guy. Yeah.
And then
he'd be the only positive review.
He'd be the only positive review. And I saw interviews with him where he was like, no, I'm dead serious. I'm not trolling and all that. I was like, what you are doing is the very definition of trolling.
Yeah.
Because and a troll would never ever admit it either.
Right.
That's the thing.
Right.
That's why he's getting interviewed, is because he's standing out by doing the exact opposite.
And you'll never get me to believe he doesn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So you do have cases where it's obvious that they're doing it, but
I think you do have to be careful with bad reviews. There's a couple things I wanted to say. Number one, and I go the extra mile in this, and I don't expect everybody to, but I cast zero judgment on if somebody loves a movie. If you love a movie, good for you.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Have a great. Paul Blart Mall Cop. If you love Paul Blart and you're laughing your butt off, and you think Kevin James is the funniest thing ever, have a great time.
Exactly.
Don't take my F grade to mean you're an idiot. That's not what it means.
Well, and plenty of people did because they made a second one of those.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and we even talk about Avatar. That thing made a ton of money, We can sit about, here and talk about it being a bad movie, but no judgment, if you enjoy something that I don't. That's one. And the other thing is Roger Ebert used to talk about this. Every movie is graded in his, and I kind of feel the same way in what he did, kind of on the basis of other movies like it. So when you look at something like Godzilla, base it on how it compares to other summer blockbusters. When you look at a horror movie, base it on how it, compares to other horror movies, because movies are so different that, kind of comparing them like, you guys do with, every year can be really tricky. And so he was very explicit about, this is an A. That doesn't mean it's the same A that this other movie is. It's just an A for this movie on its own terms. He takes his movies on his own terms.
I used to get an A on a math quiz, and then I'd get an A in a chemistry test, and that doesn't mean the same thing.
Right, exactly.
I mean, they're both the same grade, but they were two completely different tasks.
I actually tended to avoid any kind of lettering grade.
I started that way too.
For that very reason, because people do compare all your grades, and if you give a Dude Where's My Car a B and The Hangover a C, then people are going to be like,
I've had this conversation with so many other reviewers and critics about giving a tangible nugget that says, here's what I thought, whether it be a grade or a number or whatever you want to do. And I was against it to begin with too. And I can't remember which critic it was that I read something about, or maybe I heard them on something. It was Malton. It was Leonard Malton was talking about, he did the same thing. He hated giving, a grade. And then somebody told him that the audience needs something to get their foundation and their footing under to understand the rest. So if you talk about the entire movie without giving him, that, grip, that sometimes it'll just get lost. And so it's almost like, a peg that they get to hold on to while they understand, the rest. And since then I've, done the letter
Well, and
grade
you can
thing.
only do so much, right? If people want to compare one review to another, even if you don't put a letter grade on it, someone's going to come out and say, well, you didn't seem to like this, but you like this? You're stupid. And I think Rotten Tomatoes is just really misunderstood by the majority of the film-going public. And I find it
I appreciate
super
what
useful.
they're trying to do, but people do not understand how Rotten Tomatoes works.
No, and if they did, I think it could be even more popular.
Yeah.
But, even studios, I'm seeing trailers now on TV that's like 99 on Rotten Tomatoes. And I'm like, okay, but what was the mean average score? Was it 7.1?
Right,
Because that matters more. Because, but people don't understand what it is. And so anytime I ever tweet about something, like something, I think it was Arrival, something recently. No, it was Doctor Strange, was like at 98 or something, and I tweeted it out. Because to me, that means something. That means 98% of the critics on Rotten Tomatoes who have currently reviewed that film were favorable as opposed to not favorable.
Gave it a C+ or better.
But it could be anywhere in between a C and an A. But I always just get lambasted for just blindly trusting Rotten. Well, no, I just understand it, you prick.
Yeah, it usually means when you get a higher rating that it tends to trend towards you liking it as well, whereas a negative, like a lower score, means that more and more people have said this is not good.
Right.
Even though it doesn't mean that it's either good or bad. It just, you have a better idea of what it's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Sure.
What are your thoughts on permanence of the reviews? Because obviously depending on your mood going into the review or how you viewed the film and everything, that may change completely on the second viewing or the third viewing or fourth or whatever. But your review, if you're out there in the critical landscape, your review is permanent, essentially.
Yeah, we were talking about this a little bit a couple days ago with how Rolling Stone gave Led Zeppelin's albums bad reviews when they came out. Of course, they're considered classic albums today. Yeah. And I think a lot of times, yes, you have a problem here. When you review an album or something like that, and you're you are listening to it maybe twice, and then you have to get a deadline.
Yeah.
And you have to say, well, after these 2 listens, this is what I think about this, and it's not nearly enough. And I think movies are the same way a lot of times. You watch something, I've watched plenty of movies where I just like, it wasn't very good. Anchorman was a classic case where I was like, this is pretty funny, I guess. I didn't like it overall. And then years later, went back to it and said, man, there's a lot of funny things in this.
Yeah.
Why was I missing that? Well, it's because I was by myself in a theater at midnight.
Yeah.
So,
also, we change. Like, you know, it's not even necessarily that you were wrong. You're just a different person now than you were when you saw it too. So I think the audience can understand that, and and understand that things change and people change, and so it doesn't bother me to have an impermanent record, because if somebody wants to start a conversation, then we can have the conversation about how my opinion has changed. I also update my best movies of all time list every year.
Oh, nice.
So there is some kind of retrospective work
even
that I
in
do.
the 2007 discussion, Chris was talking about the list he made that year.
Oh, yeah.
And ended up voting in the podcast for a different movie than had been the top of the...
Oh, yeah.
You're
Absolutely.
right. We change. I remember my buddy Josh and I went to see Cable Guy, and we loved it. And 6 months later, when it came out on video, we were like, let's go make sure if we were right.
Yeah.
And then I saw Kids in the Hall Brain Candy and hated it.
Mm-hmm.
And then 6 months later, I rented it to see if I was right. Nope, I was wrong. I loved it the second time. And so, so much goes into how much you enjoy a movie. This is why I hate going to the theater, because I got so spoiled at the movie theater of being by myself. Right? The theater's dark. Nobody's crinkling any papers. Nobody's phone is on. If Chris is in there, he's not acting up. And now you just can't almost not watch a movie without distraction.
Oh, it's bad.
And like that guy in Arrival who was snorting the whole time. And, that will sometimes impact how much you're able to enjoy a movie.
I was watching The Edge of 17, which, by the way, if you haven't seen it, actually really good.
I really want to see that.
Really
but
good.
No one's watching it.
Two girls sitting right in front of me, probably right in that, 15 to 18 mark, and they just talked. They looked at each other the entire movie and just talked. Like, they didn't even look at the screen. And I'm like, this is a movie about you.
Yeah.
It should be drawing you.
I
And
feel like
they weren't there to watch the movie.
I feel like that's how they experience movies. I think that's how people experience movies now.
It might be.
Yeah.
This sort of new generation that's always on the phones and all that type of stuff. I'm sounding really old.
With the phones and the things and the technology.
with the gizmos and the gadgets.
The lighty box. What is that lighty box they use?
But I think that's how a lot of this new generation experiences things now. They have a movie on at home, and they're just sitting there like, oh yeah, it's funny, whatever. And
so how do they compile that information? Do they just watch it enough times that they can compile all the pieces?
I think their brains are different.
Okay.
I managed a 10-screen north of Nashville for about 2 years. Suburb, about 50,000 people. Friday night was the bane of my existence, because for whatever reason, it was the mall. And we didn't have a mall, but I would get 300 to 500 kids dropped off by parents, and not one of them gave a shit what movie they were going to see. They just wanted, that was where they saw their friends, and they would movie hop, and they would get out the back door and set off my silent alarms, and it was just a pain in the ass. But there's something generationally different, I think, about the way, I guess, millennials are experiencing movies. And I think it's a much more social experience for most of them. Whereas for our generation, it was about quality. We wanted to see a good film.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and I think that's why we're seeing a lot of these movies that just have, I mean, they require, maybe they do require more knowledge to watch them now, like Warcraft and stuff like that. Although Warcraft didn't really do well here at all.
No.
It's one of those things where when you hear that thing about Warcraft, like, well, that was made for the fans and everything, and the fans are supposed to come out in droves then, right? They didn't here.
Yeah.
But anyway, movies like that where they're just incoherent and everything like that, maybe that's just part of the thing now.
Maybe we're hitting on what explains the popularity of the Fast and Furious franchise, because they're not even looking at half of it, and it's been dumbed down so much for people who aren't paying close attention. And all they really want are big crashes and smashes.
Well, that's been going on for years, right? The subtle dumbing down of cinema.
The number of things that somebody survives all in one movie.
Yeah.
And I think it becomes even more egregious when it's 7 movies and they're all these same people surviving things they should have died in the first movie on, But anyway.
I think you guys are hitting on something that actually is pertinent to talking about why reviewers or critics are important, and even why awards are important, because a lot of people think awards are outdated, and why would you do this? Because it really is one of the only avenues for somebody who may want to be more discerning or those kind of things to really find some of that precious treasure amongst all the remakes and the sequels and at the end of the year I get all these screeners, mostly fresh new material, and I've been on a binge lately because my nominations are due tomorrow night, so I have my nominations for the awards due tomorrow night, so I've been binging everything. I'm just like, these are the movies people need to be seeing. I just saw a beautiful movie called A Monster Calls that, came out this year. I'm just like, if this was in people's, top of mind, that's why I think it's so valuable to have those people who are really sifting through everything. Yeah. It's called my podcast Sift Pop for that reason, because you're really sifting to find the treasure amongst what seems like, a desert.
That's sort of the thing that's happened, right, with the digital projectors coming in, is that a lot of independent theaters haven't been able to catch up to that, and so a lot of independent movies are not getting a chance either. And we're lucky in Nashville because we got the Belcourt, and they revamped everything to keep their people coming in and everything, but your everyday mom and pop 80-year-old independent movie theaters are starting to die out because they can't handle the cost of digital, and neither can the independent movies, really.
Yeah. But without awards, do you think we get those movies? I mean, if there's no reason for them, maybe we get La La Land, or something like that. That's kind of a big commercial musical kind of thing. But I don't think you get like Live by Night or Manchester by the Sea or all these movies you're going to start to hear about here in the next few months.
Yeah, there's absolutely no reason because it's not going to be financial.
No,
sure.
Nobody's going to make money off of it.
Yeah.
So I think it's valuable.
All right. So, Barrett, you were reading our emails, and every once in a while we'll come across one that, it humbles you a little bit. And not in the way that somebody comes and says, "Oh, you guys are pieces of shit" or something like that. It's more along the lines of, "Hey, they like the podcast and it helps them through hard times sometimes." And that's just, I don't know what to say, but it makes I think all of us in this room very proud of what we do.
Yeah, it was amazing. As soon as I got this email, I sent it to you guys, and I think I had a very visceral reaction to this. I mean, it was put in a very nice way, well written and everything. It's an email from Brazil, and I guess we had the same reactions where it was just like, damn,
Yeah, I'm never going to get used to, the three of us sitting around just shooting the shit about movies can actually brighten somebody's day. I mean, I'm super glad that can happen. That makes me feel very humbled and proud, but it's still weird.
Yeah.
It's still weird, like, us? Really? Okay. Well, proud to you.
Yeah. Well, this is from a listener, and apologies if I mispronounce your name. It's Wenceslaw Neto. This is a listener from Brazil, and he wrote us a very nice note. We wanted to read it here because we loved it. Hello, I am from Brazil and a fan of the YouTube channel and the SinCast. As soon as it comes out, I download it and work out listening to it. It's a great way to start the week. Excellent show every week. The only complaint I would have is that you guys haven't mentioned Hairspray 1988 or the 2007 remakes, both good movies. Now, there's where I got a problem with you, Wenceslaw. Because that's some bullshit.
You can't just drop that casually in there.
Yeah, the rest of this is great, but come on with that nonsense. Anyway, but the reason I've decided to send this email is different. In Brazil, we all live and breathe soccer, as you may know. This Tuesday, a plane crashed, killing 76 out of 81 passengers. They were from the soccer team Chapecoense that was going to Colombia to play the first leg of the Copa Sul-Americana, or the South American Cup. The country is shocked. Everyone is destroyed emotionally because of this, specifically because it was a small club and an amazing fairy tale that ended tragically. With that, millions are literally crying since the accident was just announced, and we are still crying with the things that they're doing to honor the team and our country. Minutes of silence are happening around the globe, and not only in soccer games. I've heard that at least 3 NBA games had minutes of silence for this team. Right now in Colombia, the fans of the team Chapecoense would face Atlético Nacional are at their stadium celebrating the lives of those players that died in a beautiful ceremony, and with that, here we are crying again. So I'd like to say that one of the things that kept me sane was your podcasts. the one about 2008 and the one about Fantastic Beasts, which I saw yesterday, to distract myself for some hours. And I've actually done a SinCast marathon to sleep well yesterday, so apparently we put people to sleep. It helps to improve my English, a win-win situation. I'm going to apologize again to Wenceslaw about all the curse words.
Yes.
Because of that, I would like to thank you guys for the great job that is done with the podcast. It makes my day better for some hours and makes me go to the movies, which is kind of rare to me lately. I saw that there's trouble in Tennessee as well. I hope things are better over there. Of course, there was the fire in Gatlinburg in eastern Tennessee, so that was definitely a thing, and I appreciate his thoughts with that. Thanks for your time, and it's as the PS is, as a Brazilian, it's an honor that you picked City of God is the best movie of 2002, which is also awesome.
Yeah,
too, But it's a great email. Thank you so much. By the way, it's gorgeously worded. Hit us all in the gut. Our thoughts are with all the people of the team there and the plane crash. And please feel free to email us silly things or serious things like this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I think it's one of those things that makes us realize what we're doing is worthwhile, and I'll always love reading those type of things. So keep them coming.
Definitely.
Want to do some questions?
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
A, some cues?
Question. I got something to say. I want the truth. I am listening.
Let's say some cues. We got some good ones this week, and glad to have Aaron sitting in to weigh in on these. First one is, what is the cringiest moment out of your favorite films? That's a really interesting one, too.
Yeah.
Because what my mind initially goes to is the hobbling scene in Misery.
Oh, yeah.
That was hideous to me. The way the sound was done, the way that his leg and foot turned sideways, it was awful.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think I misinterpreted this question.
I was going to say there's two ways to go with this, right? Like cringy, like you're talking about. Like I would think, like for me, would be the curb stomping scene, and
oh my god,
like that's total cringeworthy. There's also like this is so cheesy, ridiculous in that way as well. So I was trying to think of kind of both, and so many of these faith-based movies. I think like God's Not Dead, and there's this scene towards the end where this atheist who's been a staunch atheist the entire movie, and I'm giving away the end and I don't care, is hit by a truck.
Is God not dead at the end?
And this guy is.
Oh, okay.
So he gets hit by this car, and he's at the end, and, a Christian comes up to him and is like, you just need to pray this prayer before you die and you'll go to heaven. And this atheist prays this prayer, and like all the Christians celebrate. And it's just... As somebody who's like, can we just live in the real world for a second?
Yeah.
And I am a Christian. I believe that stuff.
Right.
But it's just like, it's just so cringy to me to see these movies, and because they're preaching to the choir, literally.
Quite literally, yeah.
You reminded me of, and I'm sorry this is slightly a tangent, but I had to watch a lot of faith-based movies when I was at Hollywood 27 because we'd get them, and they'd rent out theaters and all this other type of stuff.
It's a whole different marketing kind of campaign for those movies.
Yeah. And one that I watched was a Mormon based movie, and that it was about these two elders who went to California to spread the word. And the story is basically one of the elders falls in love with the girl across the hall in the apartment, and oh my God, has sex with her. And that's the thing. That's the big, and so he has to confess to his elders about it and everything. And the guy, there's like a scene where the main minister guy goes over and hugs the guy. He's like, you stupid child. And
does it really say you stupid child?
Something like that.
Wow.
He was saying it in a comforting way though. And what made it even worse is that it ended up that the group that was going to watch that movie ended up not watching that movie. I had to build it up, watch it, and then break it back down into reels afterwards.
Oh my God.
Well, I call them Christploitation movies.
Yeah.
It's geared towards a certain audience, and it's not worried necessarily about quality. That's not it's just it's meant to be their thing. So and some of that's okay, but at the end of the day, I want to see good movies, and I should say they are getting better. There have actually been a couple come out recently that I can actually give somewhat of a positive review to. So
yeah.
Well, There are a couple of line readings in The Matrix that make me cringe. And Matrix is my favorite movie of all time, but I hate the whoa from the rooftop, which is the most canoe moment of the whole movie.
Yeah.
But when Cypher decides to start killing them one by one, pulling out their probes or whatever, I hate the Switch line reading where she goes, no, not like this, not like this.
Yeah.
Like, it pulls me out of that scene every time because it's just such a robotic, weird line reading. So that's what I wrote down. I don't know if I misinterpreted the question.
No,
those make me
yeah.
cringe.
If you wince at a line, or if you wince, my follow up to this was anytime Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman were together in any of the Star Wars prequels.
Yeah, but that's not a good movie, though.
That's true. Yeah.
I wrote down this one, and I'm sorry, there's some frank language on this one, very frank, but we'll go with it. It's an election, and it's unnecessary. It's an unnecessary part. Matthew Broderick is sitting there talking about Tracy Flick through this whole beginning part of the movie and everything, and then it cuts to his friend, Dave Novotny, his face full on, and he's like, her pussy gets so wet. And it's just the most unnecessary thing ever. And it's, you know, I love that movie and I love how frank it is, but that part did not need to be in that. All we needed to know was that they were sleeping together. We didn't need to know that. And Matthew Broderick, to their credit, there's a part, man, right after he says that, Matthew Broderick's like, don't say that. I don't need to hear that. And I was like, I agree with you. We don't need to hear that. And it's one of the cringe moments in Election for me.
I think you bring about that it's unnecessary. I think there are some movies too where the cringeworthiness of it is a necessary part of the movie. I think of a lot of the movies about race relations and those kind of things, and you'll see the blatant racism of just like, you know, a few decades ago, or even now. You know, I don't want to pretend like it's gone, but it's so cringeworthy. Like, did people really talk to each other like that? And it's like,
well, there's a whole genre now of cringe comedy, like. All of the Ricky Gervais stuff is basically just trying to make you feel uncomfortable, from The Office to his stand-up, and yeah, I think sometimes it's necessary.
All right, next one. What's your favorite musical film? Not like a musical, but a film that works music into it, like School of Rock, Almost Famous, that kind of thing.
Okay.
What do you guys think?
Well, I wrote down Almost Famous, but it was in the question.
Yeah.
We've raved about that a lot, so I'm going to take a left turn to That Thing You Do.
Which
I've raved about plenty of times.
Yeah.
Not a musical. Could technically be called a musical, I guess.
Well, I would call it a musical in a way. Like, it's not, not by definition.
Yeah.
It's not like they break out in a song. You will have that Thing You Do song in your head all the way through it. And they have the one other song that's really good that they play in there too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of music being played in that movie. So I consider that a musical in a way.
Yeah. Anyway,
the songs are all organic.
Yeah.
So it's an organic musical. It's not, break out in a song.
It's not like Chicago.
Right.
They're talking. Now they're singing.
Yeah.
I actually just thought of mine. Whiplash. That's by far my favorite. That is about music.
Yeah.
And boy, man,
the way that
Damien
they work
Chazelle.
that in. Oh my God, it's just perfect. You see these almost glamour shots of the drum kits and the clarinets and the winds and the saxes and stuff like that. And it's amazing how those parts fit all together, and it makes it so compelling.
And I will say, is the one who has seen La La Land, Damien Chazelle's follow-up, that love of music, and I know it's a blatant musical, this one is, but that love of jazz, all that is built into that movie.
Yeah, the guy
well,
must have a love of music way down deep to make those two movies. That's a good answer.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to be alone in this room. Actually, first off, I'm going to name two. One, a traditional musical. I love Moulin Rouge, and I know that
I do too.
Yeah, I know that you're a little bit down on it and you hate it.
Yeah, I do.
But I love it I do like the music. I do like what they did with it. I do like the colors. I like the story. And even though the endings kind of like starts going downhill, that's the musical that I sort of like compare most other musicals to at this point.
I wore that soundtrack out.
Yeah.
That is fun stuff.
Yeah. The one that doesn't fit, I'm glad that we are talking about ones that don't quite fit, because that helps you think in a different way, and I always enjoy that. But Nashville. is a great musical kind of movie. That's another organic type of thing. There's people singing, getting into numbers all throughout that movie. Especially the Carradine number, I'm Easy, is great, but there's all sorts of stuff in there. Henry Gibson, Bonnie Blakely does all these. There's a lot of great songs in it.
You just made me think of The Thing Called Love.
Mm-hmm,
which is the same kind of thing. It's set in Nashville and has some great musical performances, really singable stuff.
Yeah, it is. Well, the thing with Nashville, Robert Altman's Nashville, is that there's so much variety in it too. Because you've got I'm Easy, and then you've got Lily Tomlin singing with the Black Gospel Choir.
Yeah.
And you've got all these different aspects of sped up country and stuff like that. Man, that was absolutely on my list. I'm glad you said it because it's a great portrait of this city from a bygone era.
Yeah.
Those people would not recognize this city now.
Yeah.
I'm going to go light with what I think is an underseen movie. It's Get 'Em to the Greek, which is not a traditional musical in any way.
Right.
But we were talking about Forgetting Sarah Marshall last week, and this is the continuation of that Aldous Snow character. And it's not a good movie. Probably should not watch this movie. But
I don't know.
You like it more than I do.
I don't know. It's about in the middle for me.
All right, we had an intern at my job at the time. She was like 19, and she came in Monday raving about how funny this movie was. And two of my coworkers went to see it, and they came in the next morning going, "What the fuck did I just watch?" I've never seen it, so
it's weird. It's not nearly to the level that Forgetting Sarah Marshall is, of course, but it does take Jonah Hill and puts him into a different character.
Right.
He's the best thing about that movie, though, right? I love Jonah Hill.
Well, and
I think Puff Daddy is the best thing.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But the music in that, because it goes with all this stuff with Aldous Snow's career of where he does this mishandling of this song called African Child and everything. But then, like, when you get into his back catalog and all that stuff called The Clap and, all that stuff, it's pretty good stuff. And then you got, of course, Rose Byrne and her Ring Around the Rosie song, which is about butt sex and everything.
Right.
Which is the second time butt sex has come up on this podcast.
It has.
I really feel great about that.
It's a theme. It's a metaphor.
Yeah. But anyway, it's a fun movie. I shouldn't say don't see it. Definitely YouTube the songs at least, though, because it's a lot of fun.
I guess technically, this probably is asking, movies like Singing in the Rain, Sound of Music, all that type of stuff. I mean, Singing in the Rain's great too. Sound of the Music's great. West Side Story's great. I mean, I do we really want to answer the question that you've heard, the answer you've heard a million times?
Exactly.
That's why I like why we went that way.
Yeah, Guys and Dolls, West Side Story, they're all awesome.
Yeah.
You know that by now.
it's Guys and Dolls, not Guys and Guys. That's like the third Stealth Seinfeld reference I've put out today.
Nice. All right, you want to do one more?
Yeah,
Sure.
I think we got time for one more.
Well, this kind of follows up to what we were talking about before here. What films were great upon release but have aged the worst?
Oh, I'm going to steal the answer here so you guys can't take it. Return of the Jedi, I think, is a really good answer for this.
Okay.
Because, as we said in the X-Men Apocalypse video, nobody walked out of Return of the Jedi going, "That's no good."
Yeah.
The third one always sucks.
Right.
I don't even think at that point Empire had established its reputation as the best of what had come thus far. I think people came out of Return of the Jedi like, awesome. And over time, we've seen it, in its place in the trilogy as the more kid-friendly, the more driven by merchandising and whatnot. So that's my answer.
Good one.
Top Gun.
Oh, it's a good one.
I thought Top Gun was amazing.
Yeah.
And then I watched it recently, and it is the cheesiest. That volleyball scene in Top Gun.
Almost everything about Top Gun.
I can't believe they made that scene.
Yeah.
Like, it's
The only enduring scene from that is where they do the Unchained Melody, or not Unchained Melody. You've Lost That Loving Feeling.
Yeah, for sure.
But
I mean, there's stuff
everything
in it.
else in there.
I don't feel like. And the other one that I will get flack for, I'm sure, is Forrest Gump. I don't feel like Forrest Gump holds
I don't
up.
think you'll get that much
you're
flack.
in the right
Not
place for
this-
that.
yeah,
okay,
I don't think you'll get. I mean, I remember people coming. I remember some people I respected coming out of Forrest Gump back then saying, "Oh, well, that was a blockbuster." Like that was a great movie. Sarcastically, like
I really liked it when I saw it.
I did too.
And
For sure.
At this point, in fact, on a previous podcast, I said, I don't know what the movie's trying to say to me. And I saw a comment, I think on SoundCloud or Reddit, it was like, you don't know what that movie's trying to say? Like they were angry at me for saying that. But
Did they
it
tell
really
you what it
is,
was-
we didn't start the fire, the movie.
No, that's exactly right. Did they tell you what it was trying to say to you, or did they just complain that
I
you
think
didn't?
they wrote some dribble
Okay,
about
all right.
life and
it's
love
always
and
that,
whatnot.
right? They
Because I'd
say
like to know.
they always say, "You didn't get the point," and then not say the point.
Let me
let's have a discussion. Let's talk about it.
Let me throw in a complete left turn for a minute. There was a great thread on Reddit the other day about has anybody in life Forrest Gumped their way through major historical moments the way he does. And I got completely enlightened on this, but apparently the Civil War started and ended in the same guy's freaking living room. Like, the Civil War began, the Confederates were using his living room as their base in that area. And the Civil War began on his property. He moved 100 miles away to somewhere else in Virginia. And like years later, when it ended, it was his house in Appomattox Courthouse that they commandeered to sign the treaty. And I just thought that was freaking amazing.
Yeah.
There was also the guy that got struck by both atomic bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Yeah.
Poor bastard.
Was in both places.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and there was also that couple who were in New York during 9/11. They were in India during the terrorist attacks there.
Oh, you're
and
right.
They were also in the London.
Yeah, London.
Oh my God.
So that's some weird
Anyway,
stuff.
I got us off track.
I've got two movies. One, and this came up recently because I watched this movie because of a movie recipe. 16 Candles.
Oh yeah.
It's John Hughes, really like a great John Hughes movie, but also it's got horrible racial stereotypes in it.
Yep.
And a very blasé attitude towards what happens when women are drunk, and just the main guy in there is like, tells Anthony Michael Hall, "Hey man, she's so bombed, it doesn't matter. Just have sex with her. It's not a big deal," And nobody. I mean, I guess in the 80s that type of thing wasn't discussed or whatever. Like maybe that wasn't. I mean, I'm sure that wasn't a taboo, or else it wouldn't have been in the movie. But man, oh man, when you watch it now, I think
the gong sound is the worst thing about that movie. And I don't even know how that played in the 80s, because if I was an Asian American in the 80s, that would have offended me.
I bet it played perfectly fine to most audiences. But yeah, to Asian American people and just Asians in general, I think, they probably definitely didn't like it. Because
good answer.
This is like, was it the Dragon the Bruce Lee story? We see him watching Breakfast at Tiffany's in that thing, and you see Mickey Rooney, see Mickey Rooney playing that, and you see everybody laughing around Bruce Lee, and his wife is like sitting there looking at him. He's just looking at it, just stone faced and just like sad that this is the type of thing that goes on in movies. Probably the same thing with that. But the other one that I wanted to bring up was Knocked Up, and I like Knocked Up. But there are so many contemporary references in that movie. And when you watch it now, it just, there's like Mattis Yahoo reference. There's Ryan Seacrest, who's like got to go do American Idol.
Hideki Matsui,
Spider-Man 3, all this stuff that there's all this stuff that it's funny at the time, man. Yeah, man. I totally know who Hideki Matsui is, but then 10 years down the line, you watch that movie again. Who's Mattis Yahoo? Who's Hideki Matsui?
Yeah.
It's a lot of that. But yeah, Knocked Up's got some funny. It's a funny movie. I love it. But how's that going to play, later on?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mattis Yahoo reference.
Yeah.
So random. I don't know if people knew him back in that day.
No, not really.
So I'm going with a fairly recent one, too. And this is not a great movie, certainly, but it has aged very poorly for me. It's Cruel Intentions.
Oh, yeah.
When I came out of that, I mean, I was the perfect target age range. I was like 18, 19 when I saw that. And, it was a fun, take on Dangerous Liaisons and everything. And you go back and you watch it now, and the way they treat, predatory nature onto women, the way that they treat homosexuality, not to mention those are the big things. The small things are the fashion. It's so late 90s, and it's unwatchable to me now. It just doesn't. And I really liked it back in the day.
Yeah, they were evil.
Yeah,
that story works a lot better in the past than it does with teenagers. in modern time.
It does.
Exactly. If you put
that Selma Blair stuff makes me really uncomfortable.
Yeah,
like the Ryan Phillippe stuff with her. Like he's really a dick to her.
Yeah,
and he doesn't care.
Yeah,
exactly. I agree. Good answer.
Yeah.
Sweet. Let's give Aaron a chance to remind everybody where they can find his stuff.
Yeah, if you're interested, I would say you can search up Your Movie Friend on YouTube and sub there. You can also subscribe to the podcast, which is Sift Pop, SIFT POP. We do pretty much a weekly. We take a week off every once in a while, but it's a review podcast. So we'll review whatever movie comes out that week, and then we'll do another pop culture topic, and then we each have like buried treasure, where we pick something out of pop culture and let people know about it. So have a lot of fun doing that. I do that with Andrew Ormsby, who does the YouTube channel Flick Freaks.
Okay.
So we do that together, and then we have a guest on every week. Jeremy has guested on that. In fact, you were in the first 5 episodes of Sif Pop when it wasn't called Sif Pop. So,
Awesome. Was that the
first
Breaking Bad
5?
time? Or?
The very first 5. If you go back, it's still in the in the lineup. So this was before Cinemasins had happened and everything.
Oh, we were reviewing terrible movies.
Yeah.
What did you make me watch? There was
so
one
many things.
I was really mad
so
you
many
made
things.
me watch.
I don't know. Did we do the best exotic marigold hotel? I think that was one of the first few that we did.
Wow.
I didn't
like
see that. I didn't see that. But I remember there was one that I had to watch, and it was your fault.
Yeah. No, I get blamed for that a lot.
Well, in Sif Pop, you've got YouTube and regular podcast, iTunes type of stuff on that, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Sif Pop is on. Yeah, you can find it if you do iTunes, if you do Stitcher, or however you do your podcasts. You can find it there. So I recommend those. Probably is a good place to start. Yourmoviefriend.com is the website if you want to go to the website.
Awesome.
So,
Well,
man,
thanks for coming out.
yeah,
man.
thanks for coming.
Oh, this was a blast, man. Long time listener, first time participator. So
Yeah.
good time.
All right, well, that's going to do it for the SinCast. Keep going to SoundCloud, telling us what you think.
Yeah, man. There was a lot of dissenting opinions on our Harry Potter mini-pod. Or the Fantastic Beasts one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Keep them coming, man.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, if you like it, if you disagree with it, we'll hash it out.
Right.
Brother,
Like
sisters,
Aaron
it's
said,
fine.
we're not mad if you like Fantastic Beasts.
Exactly.
Go have a good time.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not like-
Let's figure out. We're just talking here. We're just talking.
Wait a minute. There are people who like that movie? I had no clue. I'm going to get in my car today and start spreading the word.
Yeah, there you go.
Shouldn't like that movie. No, and I thought we were pretty good about it,
Yeah,
too.
I mean, we're going to talk through the whole process. I mean, that's what this whole comment station on SoundCloud is good for. Feel free to comment anywhere else, but SoundCloud is great. Also, we'll have a link to Aaron's business in the description of this episode.
Yeah, and if you're going to tell us that we suck, tell us why we suck.
Yeah.
Don't just say you suck.
Yeah.
Don't say you got this wrong and then not say anything. Just give us a good detail. We will read all of that.
Yeah.
It'll be good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and if you're saying it to me, be ready for a conversation because I love dialogue. I love talking about stuff. So
Yeah. All right. Okay, guys. Well, that's the SinCast. It's Chris Atkins and Jeremy Scott Barrett Sharon, Aaron Dicer. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
I got my notes.
I got my tannin oil.
by the way, Barrett, thanks for the shout out on the Reddit AMA.
Oh,
that was
definitely, man.
Really cool of you.
Oh yeah, I love your shit.
Oh, I
Is it okay
appreciate
to
that.
like curse around you?
I
don't know. Like,
he
yeah, you
listens
guys
to
always
this
talk
podcast,
about, like, okay,
so he
okay.
knows what we are about.
All right. I mean, I still don't curse, but it's like it's only because if I were to try, I'd be like Mel Gibson in Signs, like where he's like trying to like run around the house, and I'm just like I would be no.
I'm very
good
angry.
Right, exactly. Like I would be no.
I'm
good
losing
at
my
it.
mind. You know, I don't watch out because I'm gonna say fuck.
It's so
You can do it.
interesting.
It's all up to you.
How sounds become, imbibed with such power.
Yeah, and that's my thing. That's why it's always been funnier to me to bleep the swear words because everyone knows what I'm saying.
Right.
It's just a syllable. And in 50 years, it might mean something completely different.
Right.
And so who cares?
Yep.
That's my general view.
Yep.
Yeah, there's 25 of us. We have
Damn.
the 4 guys, their 4 wives, and then
All
amongst us we
children.
have 17 children. So
Wow.
yeah,
It's like a family reunion, but you're not related.
Do you
That's exactly right.
do you swap?
no, there's
Oh.
no swapping involved. No,
Damn.
yeah, I'm assuming you mean children,
Ew,
right?
Oh
Yeah.
Yeah.
Assuming you're just talking about no. We keep all our own kids.
Yeah. What fun are kids unless you can just give them to other people every once in a while?
Not to be confused for the Fantastic Four.
No. That's correct.
You guys watch the Evil Dead TV show?
No, I haven't.
Oh, Ash versus whatever? No, I haven't seen it.
Well, if you love, that kind of, you should check it out.
Is Raimi involved in that at all? Is he like a producer or something?
I think so.
You would think he would be,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Because he created the character.
Yeah, he probably is like either an in-name only executive producer or, something.
But it's like a real meta show, isn't it?
It's very meta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that kind of stuff. I might have to check it out.